And earlier on, you said something that annoys me, and it probably shouldn't.
Go on ahead.
Henry Hoover.
Henry vacuum cleaner.
Please, yes, thank you.
But I comment on that because Hoover's a brand.
That's exactly that.
What Hoover do you have in the house?
Henry.
Henry's hard to beat, isn't he?
He's low mileage now. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, does.
Low mileage.
Yeah. I mean, you get good use out of it. Oh, low mileage is not really used well, in fairness. Or it lies. Do you know what I did on my Hoover? We had one of them. We had a Dyson, right? Do you know when we got married and stuff?
Who won the lotto?
I know. We thought it was going to be the bit. Oh, I didn't like them at all. This is my personal choice, and didn't like it. I thought it was. No.
Did you down a voiceover for the Dyson adverts?
Yeah, I know. Do you know? But I took the extension, or do you know the hosey pipe part of the Dyson?
Yes.
And I hooked it up to the Henry, so I have an extra long hose on my Hoover Henry, the vacuum cleaner, right? So I can go upstairs with me, but it's a big tangly thing. You gotta.
Oh, brilliant! So you've got a Frankenstein vacuum cleaner,
butchered up. But then sometimes when you try to pull the Hoover and it disconnects, that's really annoying.
Especially when it's a really long cable and you have an awful long way to go back.
Yeah, it's the big suction part.
Yeah.
It's an extra big suction part,
Right.
But then it's tidying it away. That's another game of
wrapping it. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Where do you put it under the?
That's anywhere. That's everywhere.
Everyone in his house is the same. The vacuum cleaner is just jammed in.
Is your
somewhere.
house all nicely organised?
No,
Linda McGorty says, I have to have a place for everything in my house. She said, be similar to yourself. I'm thinking, no, it's not. It's not.
It's unfortunately with young children, you just can't. Maybe when they all get older.
Do we give up on it? Do we?
Yeah, 100%.
But there's some mums in there. No, my house.
I mean, you must have had that thing where there's a bit of toast under the kitchen table, and you're not picking it up, and the wife's not going to pick it up, and
no,
it's there.
Just sits there.
For a week.
Yeah, and maybe a bean there that fell out when you frozen pea. That's not so frozen now.
I am not going under that kitchen
It's half
table
cooked. It's been there beside the oven that long. So I better go.
All right, it is 2 minutes past 9. News update time. It's over to Donna Marie.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. A driver threw a package of suspected cannabis out of the window of their car after failing to stop for Gardaí in Letterkenny. The package is believed to be valued at €1,100. Upon eventually stopping the driver, who was thought to be using their phone while driving and not wearing a seatbelt, Gardaí arrested them on suspicion of drug driving. A Donegal councillor says better transport facilities are needed for people in Donegal who have to travel to Dublin and Galway for hospital treatment. Councillor Patrick McGowan told a recent meeting of the council that if the people of the area are to be denied proper diagnostic and health services, then the government needs to provide a system whereby public transport actually brings them to hospital rather than a city centre bus station. Councillor McGowan says many people in Donegal find themselves in intolerable situations.
And it's bad enough that we have to go to Galway and Dublin to get certain cancer and other skin grafts and other bone treatments, and you have to go down several times. If they're not going to have proper health service in Donegal, then at least it should be a door-to-door service. You should be dropped at the door. A person suffering from cancer has to drive the whole way to Galway or something to get radiation, or to Dublin, or whatever treatment they need. They should be dropped at the door.
There may be fewer Gardaí on the streets today and response times to emergency calls could be slower. The Garda Representative Association is escalating its dispute with the Garda Commissioner over rosters. Rank and file Gardaí are withdrawing voluntary overtime and will continue to do so on every Tuesday in October, with the suggestion of more comprehensive strike action next month. They're opposed to Commissioner Drew Harris's plans to revert to old pre-COVID roster on November 6th. GRA President Brendan O'Connor says there's a simple way to avert the planned action.
Remove the 6th of November as the date for imposing a roster that doesn't work, that's dysfunctional, that has been proven to be not really conducive to the provision of police, just to defer that, to allow us breathing space to find a new roster so our members can only change once rather than have to change twice in the foreseeable future. It's not an unreasonable ask.
Anyone who is connected with the adoption process in Ireland is being asked to put their name forward for inclusion on a register which aims to reunite families. The call comes from the Adoption Authority of Ireland on the 1-year anniversary of the implementation of the Birth Information and Tracing Act 2022. 3,417 people registered their details on the contact preference register since July of last year, with 255 matches completed since then. Interim CEO Colm O'Leary says they need more information from those who have used the system so they can keep connecting people.
We believe that there are more people that can put their name on the register and express a preference as to whether they would like to or not like to be contacted. So we would still today like to, invite anybody out there who is adopted or who is a birth parent to put their names on the contact preference register and express a preference as to whether they would like to or not like to be contacted.
And now to weather. Breezy today with sunny spells and scattered showers. The showers will become increasingly confined to the coast towards the evening. Top temperatures will range from 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. That's all for now. The next news update is at 10 o'clock. You can keep up to date with the latest breaking local news on our website, highlandradio.com. For myself and the news team, good morning.
Over 60 years ago, the credit union was created with one purpose: to provide the essential funding that's the lifeblood of any thriving community. And to do this not for profit, but for better reasons. For members, for communities, for fairness, for futures, for potential, for inclusion, for change. The credit union. For you, not profit. Credit unions in the Republic of Ireland are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 till Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
And good morning to you. 6 minutes past 9, Tuesday, the 3rd of October, 2023. How are you all keeping? I do hope you are very well indeed. And you're on board with us now for the next 3 hours on the 9 till Noon Show. We've got lots to keep you informed and entertained. And we want you involved in the conversation as well with your opinions and what you have to say, your topics you wish to raise, whatever you want to do. Text us 086 60 25,000. WhatsApp that number also. If you want to send a voice message, feel free to do so. 086 60 25,000. If you want to give us a call, it's 07491 25,000. Caroline and Niamh taking your calls today. It's Niamh's last day on the show, but we got coffee and cake, so it's not all bad. And if you want to email the show, comments at highlandradio.com. And we want you watching the show as well. If it suits you on your big screen, go to YouTube on the YouTube app, Highland Radio Ireland, and also on your Fire Stick and across your mobile devices on YouTube and our Facebook pages as well, Highland Hub, Highland News and Sport. Okay, let's look at the front of the papers today and inside some of them. The Donegal Democrat. Inadequate funding has been blamed for the lack of access to mental health services for children in Donegal. Letterkenny Councillor Jerry McMonagle this week called on the HSE to urgently address the supply and demand issue in the child and adolescent mental health services in the CHO2 area, which includes Donegal. Over 30% of children referred to CAMHS have been refused access this year. That is shocking and disgraceful because it's our children we are talking about, and if they don't get the necessary support they need now, they will not get better, Councillor McMonagle told a meeting of the Regional Forum West. The Irish Independent today continues the kite flying ahead of Budget 2024. Social welfare increases of at least €12 per week and a lump sum payment of the fuel allowance are at the centre of budget negotiations as ministers scramble for funding a week out from the announcement. A number of revenue-raising measures are also being discussed, with increasing concern within government over the economy's reliance on corporation tax. This includes an excise hike on cigarettes along with a possible increase of 8.1%, a possible increase of 0.1% on PRSI to pay for a government commitment to keep the state pensions age at 66 years old. There's also talk about increasing taxes on e-cigarettes to deter people from using them, but the policy may not be in place in time for next week's budget. To be honest with you, it's a couple of years ago I expected a tax on e-cigarettes, but it is not likely this year, they say. Talks between Social Protection Minister Heather Humphreys and Public Expenditure Minister Paschal Donohoe have yet to conclude, and the coalition has not signed off on the design of a €1.1 billion tax package, but €12 per week increase in social welfare payments at least being flagged at the moment. The Irish Times this morning, detectives investigating the murder of a man whose body was found off Slieve League have taken more than 200 statements, a judge has been told. The case relates to Robert Wilkin, whose body was found floating in waters off Slieve League on the 3rd of July. 2 people have been charged with his murder, but a solicitor representing one of them, 21-year-old Nikita Burns, has criticised delays to the case. Ms. Burns and Alan Vile, who's 38, who appeared separately via video link at Letterkenny District Court, are charged with the murder of Robert or Robin Wilkin on June 25th. Detective Garda Kieran O'Brien from Ballyshannon Garda Station told the court that a file in the case is in the final stages of completion. He outlined the complexity of the probe. We're heading to that time of year again where viruses are about, colds, flus, a bit of COVID as well, of course, and also strep A. An unusual upsurge in the most serious type of strep A infection over the past year has resulted in the death of 30 people, including 12 children. A Health Protection Surveillance Centre report shows that since October last year, invasive group A strep cases have been running at 4.5 times the normal level. It is the first time that these types of infections have surged outside of the normal peak in spring months. And when we saw a peak in these cases last year, it was suggested that lockdown played its role in that. I wonder, is that still the case? It is the first time that these types of infections have spread outside of the normal peak in the spring months, as I mentioned. The first major spike in IGAS occurred in December and mirrored rises in flu and other respiratory illnesses, as well as chickenpox, which are also known risk factors for IGAS, I believe I don't know how it's pronounced. Worryingly, of the 480 cases reported since October last year, 40% were children, up from the previous average of 25%. And it's still pretty rare, but as we come closer to the time where we might expect to see an increase, we will do an interview on that again, just what to look out for and when to act and so on and so forth. The Irish Daily Star has the coverage of a major new report. It's about customer experience, and what company would you say is at the bottom of the ranking? It's the worst in Ireland. It's RTE. RTE is ranked the worst customer experience in Ireland, according to a major report. According to the annual CXI survey of Irish brands, Ireland's overall customer experience score rose by a record 49% this year, with 85% of companies and organisations recording improved scores. The report, which was published on World CX Day, showed Ireland's overall score was buoyed by strong performances from companies in the supermarket and retail sectors, with representatives of both making up 26% of the top 30 rankings. But out of 150 brands surveyed, which was carried out by Amarak Research on behalf of the CX company, RTE was ranked as the worst customer experience. It's believed the fallout from the RTE payment scandal plummeted the trust with the public by a massive 25%. The broadcaster's overall CXI score fell 17%, which is also the biggest fall recorded. So not surprising there. It's going to be very hard to recover from that position. I believe credit unions actually scored top of that and consistently have since it was formed 8 or 9 years ago. So fair play to the credit union sector. Not good news for RTE. On to the Irish Sun. What do you think of Irish soldiers training Ukrainian troops to fire rifles? Well, it's ongoing, and Micheál Martin has defended it. Tánaiste Micheál Martin has defended allowing Irish soldiers to provide rifle training to Ukrainian troops. Speaking in Kyiv, where he met President Volodymyr Zelensky, he called it non-lethal aid, adding that it's humanitarian to defend your people. Well, I mean, you could extend that argument to literally fight beside them. You could say, you know, we are fighting beside Ukrainians in Ukraine because it's a human right to defend your people. If you brought that argument to its natural conclusion. Mr. Martin said marksmanship was not included in the very basic drill instruction provided by Ireland. He said, overall, by the way, can I say our contribution relative to others is modest, to be frank. But does it go beyond providing, bulletproof jackets and stuff and helmets, the stuff we provided in the past? I mean, Irish soldiers are training Ukrainian soldiers how to shoot weapons. Do you believe that further inroads into our claims, which we can barely claim at this point, that we are a neutral country? What do you think? 086 60 25,000. Do you have a view on that? We've talked about cocaine use and how widespread it is across the country and across this region. But fentanyl is the next drug of concern that it's feared will become widely used here and have really serious ramifications. It's a disgusting, disgusting drug. to get involved with. But it's only a matter of time, according to the Mirror, before the fentanyl epidemic seeps in here, unless we act, the Justice Minister warned yesterday. Helen McEntee was speaking in the wake of predictions from senior policing figures, including retired Assistant Commissioner Pat Leahy. He said the drug that is devastating America will be on our shores in huge quantities soon. He added it will be worse than the heroin crisis of the 1980s. And if you see video footage of areas of cities in America, they literally almost have to give up on them. And there are people high on fentanyl, I beg your pardon, walking around like zombies, standing bent over, lying in the street. As I say, in some parts of the likes of San Francisco and other areas, there's certain parts of the city are just no longer, they're a no-go zone. Because it is so hard to deal with. Fentanyl's the latest horrific drug of the synthetic opioid epidemic to flood the streets of America, towns and cities. Ms. McEntee said it's also something that is absolutely being monitored and looked at. And as I say, it's highly addictive. And if it gets a foothold in this country, it is going to be really, really serious. No doubt about that. Another thing I just thought I would mention, I might have just a quick sip of coffee, if that's okay, before it goes cold. Are you on a disability payment? If so, you might not be aware, or you may well be aware, that there's a green paper out at the moment which proposes a reform of disability payments. And effectively what it means is that if you can work, or if you're deemed to be able to work, now I don't know how they're going to determine this, that you will have your disability payment cut. And I presume you'll be have to go on courses and training and that type of stuff. Now, as I say, there are 3 tiers. And I'm going to go through it now because I really don't think there's an awful lot of people out there know about this discussion that's ongoing. And a decision is expected to be made in mid-December. But I'm going to run through it, as I say, just in case you weren't aware. So the Social Protection Minister Heather Humphreys, she's published this green paper on the reform to disability payments. The proposals are for a 3-tiered personal support. People who are not able to work will get a higher payment. The proposed higher rate is the same as the state pension, which is $265.30 a week. People in the lowest tier with the highest capacity to work will receive a payment of €220 a week and will be provided with support to find training and employment opportunities suited to their needs. So if you are deemed to be in the lowest tier, and I think the majority of people on disability are, your payment would be $220, but you would also be expected to find training and employment opportunities. People with a more limited capacity to work will be placed in the middle tier, and their payments will be halfway between Tier 1 and Tier 3, so around about $250. They will be offered appropriate employment supports and services. Now, it's not clear yet if they deem you to be moderately able to work. It's very hard to know how to describe it. You will be offered employment supports and services. Now, I don't know what the implications are if you refuse those, or you say, look, I can't work, but they say, well, you can work. Here's some supports and services. But either way, you could find your payments cut again. So the paper proposes to unify the medical and age criteria of the new contributory and non-contributory payment. People will qualify for the payment based on social insurance contributions or a means test. Again, might be a critical change there. It's proposed to raise the qualifying age for disability allowance to 18 to bring it in line with other disability payments. In parallel with this, it's also proposed to extend the payment of domiciliary care allowance for 18 years of age. Now, the minister says this is about supporting people with disabilities who want to work. But some groups are already suggesting that it can be difficult for people with a disability to get employment. So many might see their payments cut through no fault of their own and going on endless courses and endless training, and then feel that, well, look, I can't get employment because of my disability. So as I say, maybe you're aware of it, but I thought I'd mention it in case you aren't, that there are proposals for a 3-tiered personal support for people on disability payments. And as I say, if it's clear that you cannot work, €265.30 a week. Other than that, you're looking at reduced payments. $220 if they determine that you can work, and somewhere in between $220 and $265 if they believe you can somewhat work. As I say, I don't know how that's how people are going to be assessed, but you know what it's like when you're applying for something and then you appeal it and how drawn out that can be. I just think that's going to create a bit of complication for quite an awful lot of people. So I thought I'd bring you that information today because, as I say, I haven't seen it broadly reported elsewhere. If you've heard about that, or you've just heard it for the first time and you've got an opinion on it, maybe you believe it's a fantastic move forward and we'll move to a more inclusive society. We have less people, apparently, compared to the European average with a disability working in this country. They want to see us up to that European average at least. What do you think? 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts, or give us a call on 07491 25,000.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the C-Store National Large Forecourt of the Year for 2022.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
From the morning routines to cosy family moments, Grant has been bringing comfort to homes for over 45 years. With our biofuel-compatible condensing boilers, heat pumps and underfloor heating, you can trust Grant to heat your home now and into the future. Think heating, think Grant. Visit grant.ie.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Sometimes getting older is a good thing. Take a fine cheese. With steady planning, careful preparation and trusted guidance, at every stage of the process, it matures. At Standard Life, we believe in a similar approach when planning for retirement. Because when you do, things get better with age. Search Retirement Hub or talk to your financial advisor today. Standard Life International DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Search imotors.ie to visit our digital showroom with the largest selection of used cars available in the Northwest. We are sure to have your next car. All our vehicles are pre-inspected by our trained technicians and all our cars come with up to 12 months warranty. Visit us in Letterkenny or Malin or imotors.ie.
New season of fabrics have arrived in store at Fabric World Maydown. On trend and in stock, we have all the fabrics you need. Thousands of curtains, upholstery and craft fabrics at incredible stock prices. Call in for your free curtain design and quotation at Fabric World Derry. Great Euro rates for all our Euro customers.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
It is 9:22. Now, on Monday Matters Yesterday, we had an extensive chat about gambling ahead of a public meeting taking place in Letterkenny, not Letterkenny, but in Ballabufey this evening. A lot of you texting in, and I just didn't get to them because we ran out of time. Caller says gambling is a serious addiction which destroys families and livelihoods. Yet, we are bombarded by gambling ads at almost every outbreak on TV or radio, like smoking addiction. Gambling will continue to be a problem until government brings in a total ban on gambling advertising. Our own National Lottery is a big offender in this regard, they believe. Newspapers full of free bets, TV full of ads, as well as nighttime. It's a really hidden addiction, and too late sometimes when family find out, government need to do something. Loot boxes are classed as gambling in Belgium. It should be the same everywhere. Now, loot boxes are something that you will see in children's games, the likes of Fortnite and other popular games. Right, so yesterday we heard calls for a single cigarette to be priced at €1 by 2025. That's in two budgets times, effectively. So a packet of cigarettes would cost €20. Chris Macy of the Irish Heart Foundation, he's their head of advocacy, joins us now. Chris, good morning to you. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Morning, Craig.
Right, okay, so your organisation really clear then that pricing is a big deterrent.
Yeah, there's conclusive evidence from research by the likes of the World Health Organization and the World Bank that tax increases are the most effective weapon to reduce smoking and particularly to discourage young people who are much more price sensitive, obviously, from starting to smoke. So I suppose the best example of it is that the highest prices for a packet of cigarettes in the world are in Australia. It's the equivalent to around €25, and Australia has the lowest smoking rate in any OECD country. So that shows what it can do.
So a move like this is not necessarily, though it might have the effect of driving, current smokers to stop smoking, or even we could have the argument about people going to counterfeit illegal cigarettes. The real success here perhaps would be recorded in breaking the cycle of people beginning to smoke in the first place.
Absolutely. The tobacco industry needs, in Ireland alone, needs 50 new smokers every day to maintain their profit levels. And obviously the most advantageous customers for them are the youngest ones who will, ultimately, unfortunately, half of them will die from doing it. But, they'll be the ones that they can make the most money out of, because they'll be the ones they can have smoking for the longest.
And, people can debate about lots and lots of different things and have varying opinions, but the science and the consensus is really, really clear. Smoking kills. And not only that, even if you are lucky enough to not die directly of smoking, it's very likely that it will have a very negative impact on your health if you happen to live longer and not die rapidly.
Yeah, I mean, my own mother-in-law was a lifelong smoker who said it never did me any harm. She had COPD, she got dementia. The doctor said very likely from the effects of smoking. And unfortunately, her last few years were not as happy as they should have been and would have been if she'd never taken up smoking. And she did so at an extremely young age, 10 or 11, that type of thing. But that was what happened then. We've sort of got away from that. We reduced our smoking rate, our teenage smoking rate in Ireland, from 41% down to 13%, but it's now starting to creep back up again. And we just need to do more. We're losing 4,500 lives a year in Ireland from smoking, and we're just not doing enough. If you think about it, as more people died during the COVID pandemic from smoking than died from COVID, and people are continuing to die. And look at the measures, in my view, rightly we took to deal with COVID. And look at how little we're doing. We just need to get more real about it. And, in the greater scheme of things, I know it's hard for people who smoke. I was addicted myself, and I know how hard it is to quit the habit. But actually, a 20 euro packet of cigarettes, given all the harm that smoking does, we see that as something that is just a necessary thing.
Yeah, and I don't think, Chris, and I'm sure it was your experience, I don't think anyone who smokes, who is an adult, wants to. They want to pack them in. You know what I mean? I mean, you can always come up with reasons as to why you can't or you shouldn't, but the only thing a cigarette does really is to alleviate the need for a cigarette for a period of time, and depending on how long that period is, it depends on how much you smoke. It's really shocking and sickening, and I don't think anyone would be in favour of hearing that, somewhere between 1 and 2 teenagers are smoking. It's horrible to think.
Well, that's not the amount. There's about 14% of teenagers are smoking.
Sorry, what I meant to say between 10 and 20%. You said slightly above, but that 1 in 10. Let's just say 1 in 10. It is over 1 in 10 teenagers are smoking.
Absolutely. I mean, the HCS figures, I think it's around 70 to 80% of smokers want to give up. So some people don't. And I understand that. Nicotine is one of the most addictive substances in the world, and it's very, very difficult to quit. And what we know is that over the last number of years, the tobacco industry has managed to pack more nicotine into cigarettes to make them even more addictive. So it's harder to give up now than it was when I did 15 or 20 years ago. So I suppose one of the things we're saying here is that smokers are, and they're in addition to all the other tax they're paying, smokers are paying over around 1.2 billion euros extra in tax every year, and the state at the moment is spending only 15 million euros of that to help those 70 to 80% of smokers who want to quit to get off, and that's just not fair.
Yeah.
You can't just take people's money off them because of an addiction and then not help them, to break the addiction they themselves want to break. So we want much more help for smokers. So we've called, and this is not even enough. We want that 15 million to turn to a 50 million euro package to help people who want to quit to get off smoking, because realistically,
but you see, Chris, and you could multiply that numerous times, because the money you will save in the health service down the line would be far in excess of the money that you're talking about spending at this time. The biggest winners in all of this, though, arguably, is the vape industry, because back in the day, people started smoking because it was cool, because they saw people doing it on the telly, because they saw their favorite actors doing it on the big screen. And now, because everyone's so negative about smoking, the alternative is vaping. And young people are seeing the influencers, the TikTokers, the YouTubers vaping. They're seeing the fancy big screens when they go into the newsagents. And because the messaging is so clear on smoking and so ambiguous, I think, from the government and others in terms of vaping, there's pretty much... Well, I can't say I'll put a figure on it. I have the figures somewhere, but not in my head. An awful lot of teenagers are vaping and becoming addicted to the thing that you've mentioned, nicotine, which is the only thing regulated in a vape. Whatever that nicotine's floating about in, there's no regulation on it all, so we don't really know what the story is.
Yeah, Greg, you've hit the nail on the head there. We're not just asking for tobacco tax increases in isolation. Our view is that Ireland's lost its way in terms of tobacco control generally. And, one of the big problems that we have now is the threat to young people from e-cigarettes, from vaping. There's evidence from the Health Research Board in Ireland that teenagers who vape are 3 to 5 times more likely to smoke. So that increase in smoking that I mentioned before is probably, it's not conclusive because that takes time, but it's probably as a result of the explosion in vaping. So the last time there were figures in Ireland for that, that 37% of young people had tried vaping. We think there's been an explosion since, with the onset of the disposable vapes that are cheaper for kids. They're easier to hide from parents and teachers, and that seems to have fueled something much bigger. So we need. We're also looking for measures to protect children from vaping. The only thing we have on the table at the moment is, in the current legislation, Ireland will become one of the last countries in Europe to ban sale of vapes to under 18s. So we want much more done. In addition to banning disposable vapes, we want all child-friendly flavors to be banned. We want advertising, including all the pernicious TikTok promotion of vapes that's going on behind the backs of parents. We want plain packs, and we want a tax on e-cigarettes. More than half of the countries in the EU now have a tax on e-cigarettes to protect children.
But it's very frustrating because, sorry to cut across you, Chris, like this conversation was had in America 6-7 years ago. There's a couple of things that went on in this country, and one, you could argue one way or other. The HSE refused to maybe even identify e-cigarettes in a regulated way as being an alternative to smoking that would transition people from cigarettes to what other countries regard as much less dangerous, though not without its risk, vaping. So they still wouldn't sort of try and discourage people from smoking towards vaping. And then even when we've all been talking about our young people getting addicted to these fruity flavors and these sexy little vapes that they have, still refuse to do anything about that. I think the foot dragging in this area has been shameful, to be honest with you. And we'll never know truly what the consequences are. But we've been able to witness exactly what's happened in the likes of America and elsewhere, to have been able to act on this long before now. I find it remarkable that in 2023 that you have to sit in front of me and say we should be banning bubblegum flavour and strawberry flavoured vapes and stop selling them to 16, 15 and 14-year-olds. It's remarkable that we're still having that conversation.
Absolutely. I wouldn't blame the HSE. I think they've been really good on it, and I think their policies have hit the nail. I think it's legislators, policymakers in Ireland just haven't done enough, and I think the Department of Health and the Minister for Health needs to do more. We've discussed e-cigarettes with him. He says he's looking at it. He wants to do more. He's got to make sure that what the measures he puts in place are legal and sustainable. But I mean, other countries are moving ahead. There's a ban in flavors in the Netherlands now. Finland has a really, significant control of this. And I would just say, though, that, I don't want to totally discount the fact, and the very important fact, that e-cigarettes do help some long-term hardened smokers to quit. But as you say, it's just ridiculous that anyone would need bubblegum flavour or cola cube flavour or this sort of thing to actually do that. The balance is gone, and we can see that the business model of the multinational vape companies is in addicting a whole new generation of children to nicotine. As I said, we reduced the smoking rate among teenagers from 41% to 13%, and the thought of giving up that hard-won ground back to, in many cases, companies controlled by big tobacco, it's just, it's an appalling vista that we, as you say, we need to do a lot more on.
All right, Chris, thanks for your time. Have a lovely day. Chris Macy, the Irish Heart Foundation's head of advocacy there. Some of your texts coming in so far. Good morning, Greg. The help he wants is to charge people more. He knows people will pay it no matter what. It won't save lives or make a difference. He's delusional. What it will do, hopefully, the idea being, is discourage new people from smoking. I don't think anyone... Is there anyone listening that would like a 12, 13, 14-year-old now to be in a position whereby they are influenced to start smoking? And that was sort of addressed at the start of the interview. I mean, people will find a way to pay, or they'll get counterfeit cigarettes, but there's a new generation coming through that it might stop them from taking up the habit. Smoking, yeah, it's an awful addiction. Believe it or not, sugar is worse. When you give up smoking cravings, one has to turn to something. Well, not necessarily. Many people gave up smoking and didn't. I'm not sure sugar is worse than smoking, to be honest with you. So why is our government not prosecuting the cigarette makers? If it's a killer, if I went out in the street and killed someone, I'd get life in prison. Well, everything potentially is a killer. You drive your car, it can be a killer. You ride your bicycle, it can be a killer. There's lots of things that you can do that can be a killer. Eating too many fry-ups can be a killer. So, you regulate what you can, but you don't ban them, or you don't prosecute bacon manufacturers because, Greg, on the smoking topic, as a non-smoker, I think putting up the price of cigarettes is a great idea, but what about vaping, which came in before we moved on to that subject? Also, a lot of films and TV shows have smoking in them. As a matter of fact, I have noticed that 99% of TV shows and films that are produced by Netflix have smoking in them, so we need less actors and actresses smoking in films. Indeed, and it's often, and I'm watching Justified, the new series that's on now at the moment, and the protagonist in it is a cool dude, like the guy out of Driver. He's a tough guy. Probably young lads would probably say, he's cool. I'd like to drive his car, but he's smoking all of the time, and it's done in a way whereby I could see it's still encouraging smoking. So it's hard to believe that in new modern shows they still use smoking as a way to make the character look cool. There's some ways where there's the shots of the smoke coming out of his mouth and stuff, and it really, really would influence people to watch it. That being said, there is a warning at the start of the show that there is smoking depiction, and I think it's for over 16-year-olds. But be that as it may, it's still being used as a tool to show someone who's brooding and moody and a tough guy. Right, okay, let's take a break. Back with more shortly.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
The life of a Charlie's chip is never dull. Once they're selected, they're off to Charlie's, where they lose the jacket, have a nice wash, and once they get into shape and get ready, out they go to meet the public, side by side with a nice burger, some fish or chicken. Enjoy Charlie's Chips to sit in or take away daily from 12 to 8 at Pierce Road, Letterkenny. When the hunger hits, pull into Charlie's.
Tickets! Get your tickets! Arsenal, Chelsea, Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester United, Spurs and more. Home games and all the goals scored. Don't be shy, it only takes a minute to win it.
It's Cadbury FC's biggest football ticket giveaway ever, plus thousands of other prizes to be won every game week. Just head to matchtheminute.cadburyfc.com to get your match minute. If a goal's scored in that minute, you win. Enter today. T's and C's apply.
Join the team at Homeland Letterkenny this Thursday, 5th of October at 7 p.m. for a beef welfare evening with special guest speakers including Maura Langan from Norbrook and Tommy Doherty from Chagask. Chat with their experienced Homeland and Nutrias teams with refreshments, goodie bags and exclusive offers on the evening. See homeland.ie for more. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Don't miss the final weekend of the incredible Lidl Derry Londonderry Warehouse Clearance Sale with up to 70% off all your middle aisle favourites this weekend. Find us at the old Lidl Derry Londonderry store on Buncrana Road this Thursday the 5th to Sunday the 8th of October. See you there for our final weekend.
I've just had the Eclipse Cinemas experience. Wow, they truly have taken a night at the movies to a whole new level. Amazing recliner chairs, director's lounge VIP rooms, pizza and hot food served to your seat. Have a glass of wine and enjoy the film on the big screen. Try it for yourself at Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, where the stars shine brighter. By the way, the pizzas are amazing. You can book your seat anytime at eclipsecinemas.ie.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Hi, I'm at the Garda station, but it's nothing. I told this girl I was seeing for a while that I'd put shots of her up online. Shots she sent me, so they're mine really. I only said I'd do it, but the guards are saying that's a crime now. It's not my fault, Mum. I didn't do anything. I only said I would.
Threatening to share intimate images is a crime with serious consequences. Contact your local Garda station if you need to report it. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonahur Road, Donegal Town.
It's back. The Furniture Show NI is now on at CFC Interiors Campsie Derry. Save with massive discounts from leading brands in furniture and interiors, from sofas, beds, flooring and design. CFC have it all reduced in their biggest sale. Don't miss the Furniture Show NI, now on at CFC Interiors Campsie Derry.
An ferm, bíon rud ag an difriúil le déanamh i gcónaí. Is féidir le cuadrátha a bheith an gara is fearr atá agat. Ach mar bhfuil tú cosanta agus ilte i gceart, is féidir leis a bheith an nád is measa atá agat. Bhuiin dearad tragóideach leis an umarca achtarí cuadróthir ermacha. Ón féú lá saoin, beidh sé éigentach dúsadóirí cuadróthir clogad a chahabh agus iliún trí a áil. Tá tuile eolais le fáil hsa.ie/farm safety. Tionscnamh de chuid rialtais na hÉireann.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Euro Millions jackpot is a guaranteed €17 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport, where you can now fly daily to London Heathrow with Aer Lingus and connect via Heathrow to over 80 destinations worldwide, including Boston, New York and more.
Breezy today with sunny spells and scattered showers. The showers will become increasingly confined to the coast towards evening as the moderate to fresh winds back southwest and east. Temperatures 13 to 15 degrees, but we are going to get a little blast of summer Friday into Saturday, apparently. Sean Gallagher is of Defending Environmental Wealth. He joins us now. Hi, Sean.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks for inviting me onto your programme.
No, it's good to hear different voices on different things, Sean. Defending Environmental Wealth, is that an independent movement of your own, or are you part of something greater? Pardon my ignorance, Sean.
Well, no, it's a small group that set up here, and I helped to set up here about 4 years ago now, and we have been mainly focusing on the issue of illegal quarries here in Donegal and gathering evidence of lack of regulation concerning them, and we focused on, for example, the quarry at Fakara, which is.
But we've just
listeners are probably aware of that.
I know, but I just don't have that information in front of me, Sean. But I'd like to talk to you, if that's okay, about what you've described as the chronic dereliction in Letterkenny. You've been writing about this. Talk to me about your opinions.
Well, yeah. As I said in my writing my letter, was that land, and especially land in any town, is valuable sites, and we have to recognise this. And sitting on land on land which a form of wealth gets untouched, and the holding of lands, nothing happens to make society better,
Mm-hmm.
So we have to, especially coming up to the budget, we have to create tax and create better policies to activate these derelict buildings, bring them into use again.
And it's interesting because it's not just the sort of derelict buildings from the ground floor up. You've also been talking about, buildings that might be occupied on the ground floor, but the upper floors aren't occupied, and it gives a sense of dereliction.
That is correct, yeah, because a vacancy is also, you could say it's a first cousin of dereliction, And with the housing crisis, it is important that we activate these buildings above. We can give incentives for them to be used, and obviously if buildings are lying idle, they should be given tax reliefs, grants for punitive action or threat of compulsory purchasing orders if they're not used.
So you believe we need to get tough then, because there are a few measures that are in place, to incentivise reliefs, breaks, and all that kind of stuff, and even some moderate taxation. And we're seeing that now on land in certain areas of the county. Do you believe the local authority or empowered by, or indeed central government, needs to actually start getting tough? And if you believe that, what does it look like?
Well, yeah, the government has gradually put on various measures aimed at penalising these urban, well, some people would say, even call them vandals, but these are not working quickly enough, They have to have fast incentives, approaches are intended to nudge the market, like by changing the behaviour. And we also, we probably set up a national body to focus on this problem, working along with local government, like promote the reuse of these existing building stock and reclaim construction theory by introducing new clauses into planning guidance and building regulations. For example, rather than demolition, we should be put in, for example, Donegal Development Plan. There has been, you put in submissions to it, and I put in one there last week calling for any new development, including demolitions, must submit a demolition justification report, because by creating demolition, you're destroying embodied carbon of existing structures,
Yeah.
And so, related to the climate crisis, it's so important that we don't, that we use up all this old building stock, because the building sector is one of the consumes so much of disposal of resulting material and haphazard fashion, for example.
Yeah, for sure. And Sean, also too. I get what you're saying there too. But also, I think we are seeing a sort of a switch in terms of our urban areas. Let's take Letterkenny for an example. I don't think there's ever going to be a scenario, is there, from the top of the street to the bottom of the street, that all places are going to be occupied with businesses, because Letterkenny is expanding and some businesses might choose to go to a retail park or whatever it might be. But have we really got to grips with a sort of business, commercial, residential mix? And I'm even thinking of Ballybofey and Stranraer, for example, which has some of the highest, although the figures I'm a wee bit wary of, but some of the highest commercial vacancies. Do we not need a plan to sort of try and actually have these areas a strong mix of residential and commercial, so they're vibrant at least and there's life in them?
Yeah, well, maybe under we're going to stimulate the circular economy. Like there's grants and incentives from Europe, etc., to support a new carbon approach and construction, and that should happen. To stop the spread of towns, obviously. To stop the use of so many vehicles coming into towns from the outlying areas. To be close to local schools. And then with the circular economy, we can build small enterprises. For example, in Lower Main Street, Letterkenny, it's diabolical and many houses is lying empty. But also there's one main building there which is lying empty, must be 30 years. And that could be easily converted into a small enterprise, like, for example, a resourceful enterprise where you can build artisan, maybe even have a farmer's market to weekends. In fact, footfall into the main streets, and that helps all our shops and all our small enterprises in the area,
Yeah.
And it goes where people are living above the shops that are already existing. That creates footfall too, to help them small enterprises develop. And it takes vision, it takes a focus to make this happen. We've been talking about, people have been talking about for the last decade, since 2011, and nothing has really been achieved. So it has to be, maybe each local authority should have one person to target it, all these empty buildings in their main streets and villages, and target them, get action on it. It's not easy to figure out where all these buildings are. Maybe you can do it through the ESB,
Yeah, okay. Right, Sean, listen, it's food for thought. Thanks so much for coming on and talking to us about that. We'll see what the listeners think. Thanks, Sean. That's Sean Gallagher there, Defending Environmental Wealth. He's part of a group there, 086 60 25,000, if you have a view there. A caller says the majority of Irish people want to retain our neutrality, but our government are completely ignoring the will of the people. Humanitarian aid is completely different to military aid. Another, good morning, Greg. It's time these people and our government stop trying to control people. If you're over 18, leave people alone. They can make up their own minds. Taking advice from a bank now. Come on, people who smoke, don't get them for free. They pay for them. Should we put food up in price to stop obese people eating? These people love to hit the easy targets. Excuse me. Do you believe that smoking is as harmful as they state it is? Because, there is a responsible... I mean, at that point, what else do? We just allow people to take any drugs that they like, bring in these new drugs that the society would collapse with it in no time at all. Our health service is at breaking point. Part of that is to do with people's poor respiratory health as they get older. So if you just sort of take the reins off, there's consequences for that too. Is there not? Or do you believe it should just be, if you want to go to the hospital, you'll expect to get in seen. But if more people are smoking, there's more issues and so on and so forth. Good morning, Greg. There are thousands of people on the sick who aren't even sick. These people don't want to work. That's what's happening is right. Okay. And there's another comment on that. As it relates to this 3-tiered disability benefit, which the government are exploring at the moment. Hi, Greg. The tiered disability benefit system was introduced in the UK some years ago. A private company was given responsibility for deciding a person's level of disability. This was done via a rudimentary questionnaire and ignored medical opinion or doctor's advice. The result was that a huge number of people were cut off, forcing them into poverty and vastly increasing suicide rates. The social welfare changes were listed in the UN report criticising the UK government for its failure to address discrimination against people with disabilities. So just in case you've switched on, the government has published a green paper discussing a 3-tiered system. The top tier, the tier that would receive the most money, €265, would be those that simply can't work. Then there are 2 other tiers where the money would be reduced from that 265. If you were deemed to be able to work, you'd be on courses and expected to work. And then there's a middle tier where you'd also be expected to go on courses or upskilling. If you, or maybe you'd want to, and this is why I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. But I speak to people who have effectively terminal illnesses or life-limiting illnesses who can't actually get a medical card, or they have to fight for it, or even though they've been told they'll never walk again, have to prove that every year or two. So if that's what's happening in that area, you have to wonder. You have to wonder then what might happen in this area. As that caller says, a rudimentary questionnaire was introduced in Britain. Right, Pat Murphy has accepted the nomination to run for the position of Deputy President of the IFA. The elections will begin in early November. Pat joins us on the programme now. Hi, Pat. Good morning to you.
I need a cup of tea, yeah.
Okay, Pat, are you there? Pat? Hello? Hello, Pat? No, Pat's not there. I don't know what... Someone's still on the line, but it's not Pat. Okay, I'll continue with my comments here. Hi, Greg. Leo Varadkar has now officially made Ireland an active combatant against Russia, and why? It would be well within rights under international law to now attack Ireland. Ireland is no longer in a neutral position to work out a peace agreement between the warring parties. This is the latest one of America's forever wars, just like Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, and the so-called war on terror. I wonder, is Pat Murphy there? Are you there, Pat? No, it's not. Pat's not there. There is a new directive coming in from the EU on the 30th of November. From there, it will be illegal to burn wood cut on your own farm, i.e. hedge cutting, branches, etc. But you can cut them up and burn them in your house fire. Can anyone explain the logic in this? I'm going to have to dig into that a little bit deeper. Pat Murphy, are you there? No, Caroline.
Good morning, Greg.
Oh, you
How
are
are you?
there. Sorry, Pat. We were having a little bit of an issue there. Sorry to trouble you. Right, okay. You are the Connacht Regional Chair, former Galway County IFA Chairman, and now your name is in the hat for the Deputy President of the IFA. Pat, what are you hoping to... obviously, you're looking for the support of IFA members, but what are you hoping to bring to that position if you're successful?
We're hoping to be a voice for family farms, because that's what we are here at home. We're a family farm unit, and I want to be a strong advocate for farm families, but also for the food that we produce, because I think it's been abused by the retailers. It's been dismissed by a lot of people in government, and it needs to be treated better. More importantly, it needs to be supported. And we also, ourselves, need to sell it better, and ourselves as customers, or to our customers, because to give people a better understanding of where food comes from. But that's why I'm standing on this election, and that's my mantra in this, to stand up for family farmers.
We are seeing young people either leaving or not getting involved in farming. This obviously then has an impact on the fabric of rural Ireland. Sheep farming, there's hardly anything in it. Farmers are exiting that as well. And we've seen the recent cut in nitrate limits. It's death by 1,000 cuts for the farming industry. Can it be reversed with the right leadership?
Yes, it can. It can, because, you know, when you see sheep being such an important part of the fabric in Donegal, with over 370,000 sheep, we can't afford to let that go, and that's why it needs to be supported. We're looking there for the last number of years for €30 a year premium to be paid. Sheep farmers are telling us that there's nothing in it for them, and that's why young people are leaving it, because when there's no money in something, they will follow the money, they will follow their peers into better paid jobs. So we need to support them, number one, with proper income supports, and that's why we would encourage young people to continue in the game. Okay. Because if we don't, it'll be the rural economy and the rural community that will be the ones to suffer.
All right, Pat, listen, we're up against it at 10. We'll chat, I'm sure, before those elections, but thank you very much for your time this morning.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
So you're saying mental health difficulties can be smaller things?
Yeah.
Like trouble sleeping?
Yeah.
Or if I'm always stressed, like?
Yeah.
Or often anxious?
They're all part of your mental health.
Thought those were separate.
Nope. They're all connected.
Hey, how do you know all this anyway?
Sure, I've been there myself.
Anxiety, ongoing stress, low mood or trouble sleeping, they're all part of your mental health. Make the connection and find support that can help at yourmentalhealth.ie from the HSE.
The Donegal Silage Competition with Homeland and Nutrius Animal Feeds is back for 2023 and entries are now open. Entry is free and includes 5 categories: dairy, beef, sheep, round bale and new entrant. First prize is a €300 voucher and second prize a €200 voucher in each category. For full entry details, visit homeland.ie.
Step into our showrooms at Foy & Company in Letterkenny and Ballybuffet this month and you'll be transported into a realm of endless possibilities. Imagine lounging on a luxurious leather sofa, hosting friends at a stunning dining table, or sinking into a cloud-like mattress and bed at the end of a long day. Reserve now to ensure delivery for Christmas. Also shop online at foys.ie. Finance is available. Inquire in store at Foy & Company, Letterkenny and Ballybuffet.
How are you doing, Liam? Usual, is it? Seasalt? At Visa, we're proud to support small businesses in every community, like Murphy's of Dingle, makers of quality ice cream supplied by Kerry Dairy Farms. When you shop with an independent business, it multiplies to support your community. Where you shop matters. Visa.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donal Kavanagh at the news desk. Rank and file Gardaí are withdrawing overtime today as their protest against a pre-COVID roster escalates. The Garda Representative Association remains locked in a dispute with Commissioner Drew Harris over the scheduled return of the old roster on the 6th of next month. GRA members intend to withdraw their voluntary overtime every Tuesday in October with threats of a blue flu in November if the Commissioner doesn't defer his plans. Justice Minister Helen McEntee says she's been assured there will be sufficient cover today. However, GRA President Donegal-based Garda Brendan O'Connor isn't so sure.
The term sufficient is a subjective term. There's no doubt that if there's less Gardaí on duty, we will see issues such as response times and visibility will be affected. Now, I'm sure emergency calls will still be prioritised, but perhaps lower priority things won't get the attention or the response that they might on a normal day when our members are supplementing the shortfalls in numbers in Garda Síochána.
A driver threw a package of suspected cannabis out the window of a car after failing to stop for Gardaí in Letterkenny. The package is believed to be valued at in the region of €1,100. Upon eventually stopping, a driver thought to be using their phone while driving and not wearing a seatbelt. Gardaí arrested the driver on suspicion of drug driving. A councillor says there is an urgent need for traffic calming measures on the L1114 from the junction at Monagee to the crossroads at the Letterkenny Concrete and Quarry Products premises. Officials said traffic calming measures have been recently introduced on the road and an assessment will be carried out to establish if additional safety measures can be added to improve the safety of the area, particularly on the junction with the Cullion Road. Councillor Donald Coyle says there is a need for measures to be taken there.
This is the junction which I have highlighted on numerous occasions, and that's the one at Ready Mix there. Only in the recent past, there was a young girl coming up the Cullion Road and a car came down and just drove right out in front of her. Now, lucky enough, she wasn't seriously injured, but nevertheless, there was quite an amount of damage done to the car. There have been so many accidents at that junction. I want to see more work done in relation to traffic calming measures and signage.
People on social welfare and the state pension are expected to see an increase of at least €12 a week after next week's budget. The Irish Independent says a lump sum fuel allowance and double payment of all social welfare rates before Christmas are also being considered by ministers. The government is yet to sign off on all the budget measures to be announced next Tuesday. Sean Moynihan, the CEO of Alone, says older people in particular must be protected from the rising cost of living.
The pension itself, and especially if you're on your own and you're living on the pension, is just hovering below and around the poverty line. So the reality is shocks like inflation, shocks like increased energy, shocks like just the basic changes that we're all struggling with really affect those on those edges.
Homes and businesses may be without water for a time today in Northern Inishowen as repairs to a burst water main continue. The affected areas include Carrera Road, Springfield, Balmain, Carndonagh and surrounding areas. A traffic management plan will be in place for the duration of the works. They're expected to be complete by 2 o'clock this afternoon. It could take up to 3 hours after that for supplies to fully return to normal. 3 cars have recently been seized by Buncrana Road's policing units at Quigley's Point yesterday on Tyre Safety Day. It was found one vehicle had excessive wear on the front tyres. On Sunday, 2 further vehicles were seized as they were not believed to be insured. A number of fixed charge penalty notices were issued yesterday for poor tyres, as well as seatbelt offences and mobile phone related driving offences. And certain medicines which currently require a doctor's prescription may soon be available over the counter. Health Minister Stephen Donnelly is bringing a memo to Cabinet this morning, which is also intended to address medicine shortages. It's understood if passed, people will be able to get the contraceptive pill without a doctor's script. Cathy Marr from the Irish Pharmacy Union says once enacted, they'll also be able to substitute medicines prescribed by doctors in the event of shortages.
Medicine shortages have been a problem globally, but also in Ireland for a number of years, and only seems to be worsening. We have been asking for something like a serious shortage protocol to be put in place to allow us substitute medicines when a medicine isn't available. This is what our clinical skill is. We know what we can do to help patients access prompt, effective and safe treatment.
And the weather forecast for this Tuesday morning: breezy with sunny spells and scattered showers. Those showers becoming increasingly confined to coastal areas toward evening, as moderate to fresh westerly winds back southwest and east inland. Winds will continue fresh and gusty near the coast. Top temperatures hitting 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 11 o'clock. Until then, from the news team, good morning.
The obituary notices this Tuesday morning, October 3rd. The death has taken place in New York of Francie McMonigal, formerly of Cyan Mills, Strabane, reposing at Quigley's funeral home tomorrow from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Funeral leaving the funeral home on Thursday at 10:15 a.m. for Requiem Mass in St. Teresa's Church, Cyan Mills at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in St. Columba's Cemetery, Donnylip. Donations in lieu of flowers please to the Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Liam Dugan in England, formerly of Ardcolmkill, Letterkenny. Funeral arrangements later. Inquiries to Pascal Blake, Funeral Director, Letterkenny. The death has occurred of Michael Doherty, Tyrcallan, Stranorlar. Remains reposing at his late residence this morning from 11 o'clock. Funeral from there on Thursday at 10:30 for Requiem Mass at 11 a.m. in the Church of Mary Immaculate, Stranorlar. Interment afterwards in Stranorlar Cemetery. The Requiem Mass can be streamed live via the parish webcam. Family time from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. Donations in lieu of flowers, if so desired, care of any family member or via the online link. The death has taken place of Marion Caldwell, 19 Connolly Homes, Mallintown, Neediver, Glebe, Carndonagh. Marion's remains will leave Liam Collins Funeral Home, Station Road, Carndonagh this morning at 11 a.m. to repose in the oratory at Connolly's home, where they'll repose from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. today, tomorrow and Thursday. Marion's funeral mass will take place on Friday at 10 o'clock, followed by cremation at Lakelands Crematorium, Cavan. The death has taken place of Don Porter, St. Columba's Grove, Ballyduff Park, Lifford, and formerly of 316 Connyborough Road, Lifford, reposing at his home. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:15 for Requiem Mass in St. Patrick's Church, Murlog at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers please to Comfort Care Letterkenny University Hospital, care of Quigley Funeral Director, Strabane. Family time please from 10 o'clock tonight. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. For more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Throbbing head, sore back, the aches and pains of cold and flu. No one pain is the same. But for all those everyday pains, there's a moment when you start to feel release. That moment when you start to get back to being you, and you feels amazing. Panadol Extra film-coated tablets. Powerful pain relief. Release starts here. Contains paracetamol. Always read the label, leaflet.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Good morning to you. It's just turning 9 minutes past 10 this Tuesday morning. You're very welcome back to the programme. Some of your comments here as we head towards the bingo numbers. Micheál Martin does not speak for the Irish people, says this listener. He has no right to be parading around Kyiv or endangering Ireland, and especially our youth who would be forced into the military in a pan-European army. He is a disgrace. I wonder, and I presume Russia had to give its permission for that meeting to take place in Kyiv yesterday, because it was well known in advance, and obviously it would be very easy to target such a meeting. So there must have been some back channeling with Russia to see if it was okay for all of these leaders to go to Kyiv for that meeting. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but one would have to imagine that assurance or an assurance would have to have been given there. Housekeepers, it's the new name for cleaners. If you could let Lee know, okay. That's Lee Gooch, presumably. I don't know what that conversation was. Vape should have been available by prescription only to help those trying to quit, believes a listener. I wouldn't like to talk because I'm very frustrated with services in Ireland, would only get worked up about it, says the listener, I can imagine. Think Donegal ladies will be up challenging the Big Two in a few years. A lot of well-coached young talent coming through. They have won so much at underage. They seem to be a well-drilled bunch there on Sunday. Very athletic-looking team and a deep squad too, it would seem. So I would say you are probably right. A caller says a 16-year-old can drive a high-powered tractor and tow a trailer on a public road without ever doing a driving test. Is that the case? Another caller says, they go on to say, it's crazy that we allow people who cannot drive permission to be in charge of such a dangerous vehicle and carry on. Let's face it, we all know many of them do not have a full driver on with them, especially here in Donegal. A caller says Bus Éireann does not care about their passengers. They've got no consideration for elderly or people with disabilities. Same as most things around. Make life harder for them. That's all we see happening. A joke in the year that we are and supposed to be so advanced and ahead of ourselves. Travelled with Bus Éireann last 30 years. They were better back in the years, only getting worse day by day. And back then, they would have added buses, not left you sitting there with no answer. Hi, Greg. Can someone please answer my question? As someone who drives for a living, I see a lot of left-hand drive cars on the road, some of them over and over again in the last couple of years. Why are they not registered in this country? Why is it same as buying a car in the north? You have 30 days to clear tax, NCT. Who's responsible for the NCT and tax and insurance on these cars? There is derogation there. I'll check the legislation on it, but there is a derogation there at the moment. If you're on about cars, maybe they came in from Ukraine, I presume. A caller says, I've smoked since I was 12 years old. When I was 25, I finally quit, but only with the help of a vape. And then I was on it for 7 years. Late last year, there was a traumatic event in my family and I bought a box of cigarettes. Worst mistake of my life. I've been smoking since. I'm so annoyed at myself. Well, listen, at the end of the day, you stopped smoking for 7 years. You had a traumatic event in your life. You achieved 7 years. Okay, you've relapsed a little, but now's the time to say, right, I'm going to pack them in again. I don't think you should be annoyed at yourself. Obviously, there's something very stressful that forced you back into smoking. Give yourself a break. Look at the amount of money and your health you saved in the 7 years. You know you can do it, so just do it again. It'll be no bother to you whatsoever. And as I say, stop beating yourself up. You achieved great and can do so again. I work with the homeless. I've seen homeless people spend their last €2 on a single cigar rather than a loaf of bread or a pack of rashers. The heaviest addicted smokers will prioritise tobacco over food. Mind you, the old custom of sharing the cigarette is gone because they're too expensive now. Again, you know, there are obviously people in society that need assistance in stopping smoking. And it sounds like these people that you talk of need additional help, be it through support or even maybe putting them on vapes or whatever. I don't know, but we've never really embraced vaping officially in this country as an alternative to smoking. But I don't think anyone wants to see someone in a very desperate situation who's dependent on nicotine. And if you've never been dependent on nicotine, you won't know how hard an addiction it is. Those people should be assisted and not forced to choose between a cigarette or a cigar and food. I don't want to live in a society that forces people into those situations. Good morning, Greg. You know, listeners complaining about someone smoking in a TV show, yet have no problem with the porn shown on Channel 4 aimed at kids. Just shows the bad world we now live in. Smoking bad, grooming kids good. I think you're referencing a show. It wasn't for kids. It was a strange program, to be honest with you. I think it was... there was a lot of adults standing in front of a select group of children. Don't know what the purpose of it was. Don't know what it achieved. I don't know if it was for titillation or whatever it is. I don't agree with it at all. To be honest with you, I didn't watch the show. I don't know what it's about. But I mean, if we don't talk about something because something else is bad, we literally have nothing to talk about. You know, we would literally have nothing to talk about. But I know what you're saying. I wasn't comfortable with that show at all. I didn't see the purpose of it, and I'd be afraid that someone might get some sort of a kick from watching it because there are some very strange individuals out there. So I would agree with you. I don't think that show should have been made. But also I don't think that smoking should be glamorised in TV shows that children are likely to watch. All right. Good luck if you are playing the bingo today.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday, the 3rd of October. You're playing on the brown sheet. The reference number is S17. It's game number 40. The numbers are 43, 45, 12, 76, 33, 2, 32, 38, 39, and finally 46. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Discover RHS Home Care, Ireland's only not-for-profit home care cooperative. We are now hosting open recruitment days in the following venues: the Mill Park Hotel Donegal Town, Tuesday 3rd of October, Jackson's Hotel Ballybuffet, Wednesday the 4th, and the Lake of Shadows Hotel Buncrana, Thursday the 5th. All venues 9:30am to 4:30pm. At RHS, you'll enjoy highly competitive hourly rates on capped travel time and mileage. Walk-ins welcome. For more details, contact 0906 625 988 or jobs at rhshomecare.ie.
County Donegal Blackfish Sheep Breeders Association 66th Annual Show and Sale of Shearling Rams and Ram Lambs will take place at Ballybuffet and Stranorlar Mart. Show this Friday the 6th at 2pm, with the sale this Saturday the 7th at 12 noon.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
All right, welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Let me see. Morning, Greg. Sorry, but people need to stop saying that the only refugees coming into Ireland, there's so many different nationalities arriving in Ireland and the taxpayer has to fund them when we have so many Irish struggling and getting no assistance from the government, they say. All right, that is certainly one point of view.
The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025.
Okay, it's time to welcome into studio for this week's Community Garda information item, Garda Sergeant Paul Wallace. Good morning, Paul. Good to have you in with us again.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks very much.
Right, okay. Starting with some sad news this morning.
Yeah, just I suppose just to note, and starting on a sad note this morning, I just want to remember our young colleague, Honorary Garda Owen Brogan from Castleturd Carrigans. His shoulder number was HR 185, who passed away over the weekend, and it was buried yesterday. Owen was a lovely little lad, part of the Honorary Garda that we have in Donegal. He had his induction 2 years ago in the army. We were there that day at his school out in Carrigans, and then he graduated in November 21. So our thoughts and prayers are at this sad time are with his parents Robert and Anne, his brother William, sister Kellyanne, Louise and Aoife, and the grandparents James and Bernadette, Sharkey and Newton. So it's a very difficult time, so may his gentle soul rest in peace. I just want to say that.
Yes, indeed, and we join you in that. Our thoughts are with Owen's family.
Yeah, the Little Blue Heroes do a lot of work for these little children, and it's tough on them too, and the wider community there.
Yeah, for sure. But that's a sign of the importance of Garda Owen Brogan and the impact he had in his short life. A beautiful young boy. Gardaí had their open day at the Garda station there at the weekend. Saw some pictures and videos from it. Seemed like a lovely event.
Same as, I missed it myself. I was away. But it was a good day, and I suppose we have to thank your own staff, Paul McDevitt, Jimmy Stafford and Lee Gooch, who was there as well. The Garda Síochána Facebook page, anyone wants to check in with it. The Faces of the Children say everything, but we also have to thank all the services who are there, the Coast Guard, the RNLI, the Civil Defence, the Coast Guard helicopter, all of that, the Army, and the Faces say it all, and kids love to come in and see these emergency vehicles, be seeing what can happen in a friendly atmosphere. That event was to happen last year, and it was on the day actually after the Creeslough tragedy, and we couldn't go ahead with it. But look, we were anxious to get it done before the weather would turn, and at least it was a good day, and it seemed to be enjoyed by all.
Yeah, as you say, lots of happy, smiling faces. Already seeing reports of people reporting on their social media and what have you, fireworks. We aren't that far away now from Halloween, but already people's peace and quiet being disturbed.
Well, it is, and we're at the beginning of October. Halloween's approaching, so Donegal is a difficult location. We've spoken about this lots of times. We have Operation Tombola that deals with all of this, and it's being in a border county where in the adjoining jurisdiction you can buy them quite freely, and they're legal to a point there. We just want parents really, to sit down and talk with the kids about the dangers associated with the use of firearms, or fireworks, I should say, and to realise that it is an offence to possess unlicensed fireworks other than low hazard fireworks like party poppers, sparklers and that sort of thing, or to have them with intent to sell or supply, or to throw them or ignite them. Now, there are two sections of the community that are very vulnerable and get very, very upset and afraid at this time. Are our older people, whether it's urban, whether they're urban-based or rural, in housing estates, that sort of thing, and the animal community that are out there and are important as anybody else. Dogs, livestock, all of that. So people should think you don't want to end up getting a conviction or having dealings with the guards and having a file sent to the DPP for being in possession of these things.
And as sure as night follows day, there will be people presenting at EDs up and down the country with fingers missing,
damaged
potential
eyes, all that
eyes,
sort of thing.
And it is going to happen because it happens every single year.
Every single year, and you could have a life-changing injury there that could be prevented, and like parents have a role and guardians have a role to play here. We want everyone to enjoy Halloween, be safe, and if you want to go to fireworks, go to an organised legal event. And there's an organised legal event not that far from here in Derry City. It's actually tremendous to see, but it also you can see what the impact that fireworks have, how dangerous they are too, and they're handled by professional people. So people get injured. Think about it. Parents, talk to them about it. Think about, if you're buying fireworks, what you're actually taking into your home and the harm it can do, and the harm it can do out in the community to the elderly and to the animals in your
people
area.
With newborn babies and dogs
all
around the houses and all that kind of stuff. And it is a difficult one because one sounds like a party pooper, but these are explosive devices. You don't know what's in them and what way they'll perform or react. And
well, that's a very good point, because a lot of them aren't CE marked and anything like that there, so you just don't know what you have in your hand there. You're supposed to do this, and the bright packaging and all of that.
But you're effectively setting fire to pipe bombs in your garden.
Yes.
And also, too, it is actually really quite a serious crime.
Yeah.
I'll come back to the property market if you don't mind. We'll go on to the coastal communities first, because this is sort of, obviously with the activity we've seen off the coast, and we've learned a little bit more about how drugs are moved around the place, and I suppose we're starting to maybe see some theories as to why we had massive amounts of cocaine wash up on Donegal's shores. But you also want to warn our coastal communities about drug importation, but generally looking after their stuff as well.
Well, looking after their stuff, and I was last in here on the 14th of August, and I didn't think I'd be back in here today, but as you know, Grania had an injury, so we must send good wishes.
Get
to
well
her.
soon, Grania.
Well, good Grania.
Like
Grania.
really soon.
Really soon.
No offence, Paul, but like,
no offence.
you know, you could get up here within the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, with all the appeals that I haven't got. But look, we saw that week on the 14th. That was the week after the bales washed up down in Hornhead and Dunfanny and that. And we saw then last week it on a grander scale or whatever. And then there was links in relation to that with this county where two individuals, possibly the two that went on the sandbank, were in Killybegs. There were two individuals in Killybegs attempting to buy a trawler, and the trawler man would have been glad of the sale because of the way the fishing has gone and all of that sort of thing, which is terrible in itself, being a native of Burton Port. But the trawler man became suspicious then because he knew these guys, they weren't adept at handling a boat or they weren't asking the right questions. And I suppose a transaction, any money transaction now, it can leave you very vulnerable. So he pulled out. So it's possible that these guys went to Castletown Bear then and bought that boat, and obviously were lucky to escape with their lives and had to be winched to safety and all of that. And then we had the big ship then. And, you know, when you look at the route that ship took from South America up along the coast of Africa, slowing down at the Canary Islands, going very close to the coast of Portugal and France, it wouldn't take a lot of imagination to figure out what was going on there. Yeah. And a big ship then going up into the Irish Sea and turning around like a pleasure craft up and down and over and back. And, you know, there was tremendous work done by all the agencies and particularly by the brave people who boarded that boat, you know, just as the drugs were attempting to. Yeah,
I don't think even the video gives. I don't think, because obviously that boat at that point was taking evasive manoeuvres, trying to get into national waters. I don't think the video really demonstrates how tough winching down from a helicopter onto a floating evasive vessel like that, how difficult that would have been.
And it doesn't take into account, and we watch it all the time, and I heard former Assistant Commissioner Pat Leahy on RTE on Sunday there, and he was talking about, you know, it was a scene worthy of an action movie. But for the brave people on the Ranger Wing who dropped down on that rope, you're a sitting duck. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't know what firepower was below you.
Well, how desperate those
or how
below
desperate
you are.
they were, and the desperation, I think, was manifested when the captain had a seizure or whatever, and then he had to be medevaced off the ship. So, you know, these guys were sitting ducks on both sides, and there was a lot of money involved, and, you know, there will be probably repercussions. But, like, all I'm saying today is people in coastal communities, fishermen in particular, fishers as they're properly termed now, they know people that are adept at handling boats and stuff like that, and we can't allow our communities to be taken over by these people who will use our nooks and crannies and small piers and all of that. And that goes to cars and vans travelling up and down narrow roads and stuff at night. We need to know that. The guards are there to protect your community, but they're no good if the community doesn't interact with them. And it's not just the guards, I should say the revenue as well, who are part of the bigger operation. And like the guards have their confidential line. If you don't feel confident in speaking to somebody and you're afraid as such, 1-800-666-111. It's on the side of every patrol car.
Yep, and
revenue have theirs, 1-800-295-295.
You know, unfortunately, we don't have the sonar required to. Sometimes what they do from these vessels, they drop submarine type, torpedo type items to the surface of the seabed, and then on a timer they open up and the floats come, the drugs come to the top. So we can't really detect that at this point. So it's really important then that the fishers are the eyes and ears of the community,
and people
because
simply walking beaches.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
There's always
everybody
someone
has
as
a role.
remote to beaches. There's always someone there. Isn't
we
there?
always have a role to play. Everybody has a role to play, I should say.
Right, so we can tie in the two issues. Obviously, maritime equipment might be tied up or back behind the house or maybe close to shore or whatever. Boat engines, incredibly valuable, handy enough to move. So keep an eye on those. But also there's property marking equipment there and a property marking event upcoming as well.
There's one upcoming in Dromahal, but you know, we will be rolling these out, particularly over the winter. And if you have an engine, a big engine on a boat, if you make contact with your community Gardaí, they'll go out and mark it on site. If you can bring it into one of the days, do. It's a good time to get it done over the autumn and the summer, and it'll be done for next year. And if it's marked, it is less attractive to the thief. We have a reschedule. It was due to the weather back at the end of July. Property marking day out in Dromahal at the football pitch there on Saturday, this Saturday coming, the 8th, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. They'll be there with the TELUS marking machine, which has been provided by the Joint Policing Committee. And so bring along your tractor, trailer, quad, power washer, bicycle, even your mobile phone, and know your air code and get them marked. It's deliberately put out there because it's a big farming community out there, so we're sort of appealing to them as aimed at the farming community who can and will be targeted by thieves. And we have a very good community alert, text alert scheme out there too, and they're very vibrant. So they were anxious to have that out there, and it's part of their plan for the year.
Yeah, I know your focus is on crime prevention and assisting businesses and homeowners. But are you familiar with the legislation? I can look it up afterwards. But we've had a couple of texts on it that permits people who've moved here from the Ukraine and taken their vehicles to drive them here. Obviously, people would know that if you take a car in from Derry, you have to very quickly get it crossed over. Now, if you don't, as I say, I know...
off the top of my head, I'm being honest, and you know this, if I don't know something, that's always been my motto here in your time.
I'm the same.
And in Sean's time, or Father Sean, as we call him now. But I won't speculate, but all I know is what I think there is dispensations given, a derogation or dispensation, whatever way you want to call it, around insurance, driving licenses, and probably the registration of the cars, because a lot of these people would be hoping possibly to go back.
Yeah, I know Ukrainian and roadworthiness certificates are accepted over here. I know there was an agreement between the Insurance Federation.
Yeah.
So, listen, I'll check that out.
Not exactly sure on that, and certainly people are right to raise it to. It's something to think about. Thinking some of our traffic people are supposed to ensure that cars, we all have to have our cars NCT'd now.
Yeah. It's just to make sure, especially we're talking about road safety now, just to make sure everyone knows what the rules. So
but I'm sorry that I just don't know. Well, it's just a question that came in as well.
I know the way you are, and I know the way you are, and I knew I could put that to you, but we'll get the answers. But there's definitely something in place. But I suppose it's good everyone knows, because Gardaí are asking the public all the time to call in if you see anything, and people, I suppose, need to know what's allowed and what isn't allowed.
It's good to see people asking that question as well.
Right, we are getting unfortunate, terrible, tragic reminders of the dangers on our roads. Pedestrians, we had an awful situation of the loss of life of pedestrians. I think it was the weekend before last, and road traffic collisions both here and right across the country. We've high rates of death, and the figure that we don't have but we know is huge is high rates of really serious injury, life-altering injuries, and I suppose it's a reminder, and you want to remind people about driving behaviour, Paul.
Yeah, well, look at today is Tyre Safety Day. They say the research says that 14 deaths are contributed to bad tyres, and it's not just a tread; it can be bulging, cracks, all of that sort of thing. And we had a van seized by Buncrana Roads Police in recent days there, which led to, I think, it's no insurance as well. So, it's something to think about: your tyres, your tread depth, the type of tyres you have on, all of that. So it's Tyre Safety Day. Also, in relation, we have the Road Safety Show, which basically had its birth or its gestation here on Highland when we started off years and years ago, and it evolved into this down in the Aura for the students, the second level students, today and tomorrow, and that's co-hosted by Donegal County Council, who we're very grateful for their help and assistance there. But it goes back to the simple things: driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs, minding your speed, wearing your seatbelt. there's a lot of talk about the speed then, about reducing the speed and all of that. I'm not convinced that that's the answer either. It's driving behaviour. I was listening on the radio yesterday evening about people, and one young guy was being interviewed. He'd done his theory test and he'd done his lessons, and then he couldn't get the test. And as he said, and he was quite right in what he said, the bad habits creep in then. In that vacuum. Now, looking at the numbers there, and I know your numbers are from August 23 because I saved them incorrectly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, on the 14th of August 23, which was the last day I sat here, 24 pedestrians had lost their lives. That's up to 32 today, as of 9 o'clock this morning. Drivers were 41. It's up to 47. E-scooters were 2. It's up to 3. Motorcycles were 15. It's up to 18. And cyclists were 1, and it's up to 4. So
that's a lot of devastation in
since the last time that we talked, we're plus 31 people who were alive that morning who are not alive today. And I think, I know Donald covered it on the news, Burncrana Road Policing Unit detecting somebody doing 166 kilometres in an 80 kilometre zone. No, mad stuff. Our numbers on the 14th of August were 105 tragic people who lost their lives. And you said we're not talking about the life-changing injuries, and we seem to forget about that. And we're up now to 136.
Yeah, I think it's 14 to 1 or something. The ratio is for every life lost.
Yeah.
I think it's 13 or 14. I'll have to double check that.
Something like that.
It is. It's shocking.
But when you think of the pedestrians that there was 20, or we're up 8 people that were walking around the last day I was here, 6 drivers who were driving around, 1 e-scooter user, 3 motorcyclists and 3 cyclists were here, were doing whatever they were doing like any of us.
And snatched from people's lives, it's crazy because on a Friday you're saying, how was your week, what's your plans for the weekend, and on Monday you're at their funeral. That's how
you can be reading yourself in the Donegal Democrat.
That's how quickly it turns around.
And statistics are difficult. I think you have to break them down like that. It's like I used to say years ago, and we'd be doing 150 people lost their lives. Yeah, but when you say if 3 buses left Busairn or Busaris in Dublin heading for Letterkenny over the period of 9 months or a year and never reached Letterkenny, to be public outcry.
Yeah.
So we all have our part to play, be it our tyres, be it our behaviour, be it the wearing of seatbelts.
And road conditions as well. Make sure hedges are cut, that the crap from the hedges doesn't lie in the roads, the potholes are filled.
Please just try. Can be any of us.
A couple of callers wants to know, should we be concerned about Garda cover on Tuesdays for the next while? Are we going to see, do you know off the top of your head if we're going to see a depletion?
I don't think you'll see a depletion. There's as it's been well publicised, there's the GRA are saying that their people aren't available to perform overtime and all that, and I suppose that probably is more applicable in the big urban centres because we always have a standard amount that we have there, and we have what they call an abstraction rate, where only so many people are allowed on leave. I don't think there should be concerns. I suppose it's something none of us who are members of An Garda Síochána like to see, this industrial disharmony or whatever it is, and hopefully it will resolve. And it's just a difficult period now for both sides.
I know you're not in the executive of the AGSI anymore.
Not anymore, no. But
do the AGSI have a position on
well,
on
the AGSI have been in negotiations, and they've publicly stated that they have no issue with the stewardship of Drew Harris, which other organisations have a different view. But when I was there, we were part of the negotiations that started off with what they call the Westminton roster in 2012 and went on up then to the COVID roster, which was introduced overnight, and everybody stood up and were part of that, the 4 on, 4 off. Operationally, the Commissioner says it's costing him money that he's not able to spend in other areas, and the abstraction rate is difficult for crime investigation and follow through the 4 on, 4 off. The people on the ground find it better from a work-life balance and all that, and travel and costs. So it's not, there's a whole, and I know Brendan O'Connor has articulated his view very well, President of the GRA. it's probably just not just one issue. It's about lifestyle choice and about expenses and about all of that. But hopefully the HSI have proposed, have sent in a roster. I think it was in May it went in, and that was being considered, and it's hinging around the 6 days on, 4 days off, and a shorter shift from 12 back to 10. And that hasn't been fully determined on. I'm not fully up to speed, and I wouldn't propose to be, because I'm not at the executive table anymore. But it is a difficult time for everybody, and you can imagine the public are probably feeling a bit unnerved about all this too, because people don't like to see their police forces.
No, they don't. But the difficulty too, Paul, is the personal nature of the dispute between Mr. Harris and the GRA. And yes, the GRA have said certain things, but sort of Drew Harris has called them out in certain ways too. It's going to take an awful lot to rebuild that relationship.
Well, I don't want to get into that because that's between
the GRA
and the Garda Commissioner, and I think a lot of it probably then social media then fills that vacuum where people can express their opinion freely and all that. So it's a difficult time. It takes a time for cool heads now, and just hopefully it'll be resolved before the 6th of November.
All right, thanks very much, Paul. Garda Sergeant Paul Wallace. That was Community Guard information for this Tuesday, the 3rd of October. We're back next Tuesday after the 10 o'clock news.
The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025. Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Seasonal loans now available for Christmas. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Go full Lidl for full family meals. Rustle up a roast, a curry or fajitas with our fresh Board B approved Irish large chicken was $5.99, now $4.99. And have a chili con carnival with our Board B approved Irish lean steak mince was $4.19, now $3.29. Go on, shop without compromise. Go full Lidl today.
It's the home of the vegan butchers, the artisan bakers, the freestyle lyricists, and the trouser suit striders. It's the urban jungle, where the everyday meets the latest wave. And you could see it all from your Seat SUV. From the sharp lines and smart style of the Arona to the bold and beautiful Ateca. And if size is your thing, the Tarraco comes as a 7-seater. See what's in store at seat.ie for our latest offers. And visit DMG Motors, Clough Road, Donegal Town. Because your new Seat is just waiting to see what's next.
Autumn is here, and so are the new arrivals at Green Shoes. Shop in store or online now from top brands like Doc Martens, Kate Appleby, Tommy Bow and Riker. Also New Balance, Wonders, Echo and many more. Shop LK and one for all gift cards accepted in store. Visit Green Shoes and discover the perfect footwear to complement your style. Green Shoes at Market Square, Letterkenny Shopping Centre, Fulcara and online at greenshoes.com.
Big country special dance. John McNichol, John Hogan and myself, Declan Ernie and my band. October 7th, any show in Gateway Hotel Buncrana. Admission €20, doors 8:30.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. We're joined on the programme now by a consultant in public health, the consultant in public health with the HSE West, Dr. Anthony Breslin. Good morning to you, Anthony. Thanks for your time today.
Not at all. Morning to you.
It's great to have you with us. We're talking about the HSE's autumn-winter vaccination programme. It got underway yesterday, and there's a free flu and COVID-19 vaccine available to recommended groups. Do you take them as a pair or break them down into the flu and then the COVID vaccine, Anthony?
Ideally, if you can get them both at the same time, that's what we'd recommend. There might be a small number of people who maybe had COVID a week ago, and they should delay the COVID vaccine for 3 months. But if you haven't had COVID recently, get the 2 vaccines so that a one-stop shop approach. That's what we're recommending.
Some people may have the symptoms of COVID but didn't test. If they suspect they've had COVID, should they avoid the COVID vaccine or would they just maybe talk to whoever's administering it and get the advice?
It depends on the circumstances. Obviously, the easier thing is to go and get an antigen test, save yourself a trip to the GP, the pharmacist or the COVID vaccination centre. If that's negative, wait until you're well. don't get anything until your symptoms are gone anyhow for any vaccine. And then once you're better, go and get your vaccine in that case.
Right, so the COVID-19 autumn-winter booster vaccine is recommended for those aged over 50 and with also long-term health conditions, and then the flu vaccine for over 65. So I don't want to confuse people.
Basically, there are two there's two groups, as it were, age-based and then risk-based. Over 65 for the flu, over 50, as you said, for the COVID. If you have a medical condition, poor immune response, heart disease, diabetes, etc., you should, and you're under those age groups, both vaccines are recommended as well. And obviously the intranasal vaccine, flu vaccine, is recommended for children. You can get that from your GP as well. And some very young children might be able to get it in schools as well. That's something new we're offering this year. All the recommendations can be seen on the HSE website, because there are other groups that need it. Obviously, healthcare staff pushing that big time, stop them getting sick, stop them passing it to their clients, making them available for work, which is very important. Also, for instance, poultry workers should be getting the flu vaccine because they are at risk of flu, and we don't want them getting flu and avian influenza. It hasn't happened, touch wood, but we want to reduce that risk as well. And then pregnant ladies should be getting the vaccines. They should also be getting the pertussis whooping cough vaccine, because that's what they get routinely. And just to get across the word that, yes, we're talking about vaccines, but don't forget the childhood vaccinations are out there as well. And they have fallen a bit post-COVID. We're trying to get people to get those vaccines up to date too. We need to make sure people are protected against measles, mumps, rubella, meningitis, hepatitis, etc. So,
as the conversation
to get that as well.
As the conversation and debate that raged over the COVID-19 vaccine, which we're not returning to obviously as part of this conversation, has that had a knock-on effect? You know, people in their mind conflating one vaccine with another, or is it just a natural downward curve that might happen from time to time, Anthony?
Well, vaccine fatigue has happened, and we realise that, but we're trying to encourage people to overcome that. And also because during COVID, where people didn't have the access to the child vaccinations routinely as they did, that sort of got people out of the habit as well. And people with young children, who had young children at the time, they didn't get the vaccines as easily as they would have pre-COVID. And if they've other children since then, they haven't had the experience of getting the vaccine. So we're just trying to get people back into the habit of protecting their children.
I presume this flu vaccine, like previous years, has been fashioned based on what we've seen so far in other parts of the world.
Yes,
Are we getting any indication of what kind of a flu season we might have?
We've seen a slight increase earlier timescale in Australasia. So we're think we might get flu a tiny bit earlier than we have in the past. We've begun to see both in the UK and in Ireland a very, very small number of people admitted to hospital with flu infections. That's normal because we do get it once the season hits, but we're hoping that we don't get the big outbreaks until we get a lot of people vaccinated. That's the important thing.
Right, so the vaccination programme started yesterday. For those inclined to get it, where can they get their vaccines?
You can get the vaccine from the GP, you can get vaccine from the pharmacist, they can get vaccines from the community vaccination teams. So they have a lot of choice. Make an appointment with the GP, make an appointment with the pharmacist, go online and book an appointment with the community vaccination teams. So there's a lot of choice out there.
Caller says, if you can't get two vaccines together, how long should you wait between?
Just as long as, if you can't get the COVID vaccine because you've had COVID within the last 3 months, wait until 3 months is up for the COVID vaccines. But if you can't get the two vaccines together, get them at the same time. It's one trip to the pharmacist, the GP or whatever, People, if they're traveling, for instance, can get lots of vaccines at the same time. Children get lots of vaccines at the same time. There's nothing wrong with an adult getting vaccines at the same time. So that's the easier option.
Okay. Anything else you wish to add, Anthony, just as we wrap it up?
No, just if the vaccines are out there, they're safe, they work, they stop people getting sick, they stop people getting hospitalised, they stop the blocking of emergency departments, and we need them for our chest pains and RTAs and everything else. And don't forget the childhood vaccinations either, and also for healthcare staff to get their vaccines as well. That's very important.
If you had a booster in May, do you have to wait 6 months until November for...
If it suits you to get it after the 3 months, go and get it.
Okay.
You're not going to be turned away.
All right. Listen, thanks very much for your time. I do appreciate
Not at all.
it. Okay, take care.
Thank you for the opportunity.
No
Talk
problem.
to you again. Bye
you
now.
too. Dr. Anthony Breslin, consultant in public health with HSE West. Greg, I got my flu jab today. I'll get the COVID jab next Tuesday. I was getting my bloods taken today. Okay, that's good for you. Right. Okay, let us take a break. Loads to come on the 9 till noon show.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
An emotion stirred, an idea accelerated. That's progress you can feel, and the very definition of the Audi 241 range. From the sporty, iconic Audi A4 and the all-electric Audi Q4 e-tron to the pioneering Audi Q8 e-tron, offering greater range than you can even imagine. Test drive the Audi 241 range at an Audi dealer near you today.
It all begins with a thump as the needle nestles into a deep valley of vinyl. Sizzle and crackle turns into fizzle and scratch, and the mesmerizing rotations pop and hiss and...
Ah, the crackle of a vinyl record. Just one of the ordinary sounds rediscovered by Sean. Whatever sounds you've lost, our hearing experts could help you find them again. Search Specsavers Hearing.
Is the appearance of your staff important to your business? It's the first point of contact for customers when entering your premises. At C&M Embroidery in Letterkenny, they have a huge range of clothing covering all areas of the workplace. It's widely known that customers warm to and trust employees that present themselves well. Have your company name embroidered or printed on all your work uniforms. Contact C&M Embroidery on 07491 28097 and get your staff looking their best.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport, where you can now fly daily to London Heathrow with Aer Lingus and connect via Heathrow to over 80 destinations worldwide, including Boston, New York and more.
Breezy today with sunny spells, scattered showers. Showers will become increasingly confined to the coast towards evening as the moderate to fresh westerly winds back southwest and ease inland. But winds will continue fresh and gusty near the coast. Temperatures today 13 to 15 degrees. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the programme, a draft proposal has gone out which suggests a three-tiered personal support to replace or reform disability payments. If you're not able to work, you get the higher rate, €265.30. But if you're the lower tier, where you have a capacity to work, and we still don't know how that will be determined, your payments will be $220 per week, and then you'll be provided with, I don't know whether they're compulsory or not, support and training to explore employment opportunities suited to your needs. There's a middle tier then, which also they say, well, maybe you can't do this type of work, but we can support you to do that type of work. And the aim being to get as many people who can work and want to work back to work. But already it's we're getting sort of almost like a divide and conquer situation where people are texting in saying, well, there's lots of people who don't want to work and they're sitting at home and they could be at work and they're on disability. But there are also disability groups who believe that maybe the employment opportunities aren't there for them. And this is just really about the government saving money, and they believe it's going to be a form of discrimination. It is a complex one. John Joe McGinley is founder of Autism Dad, and he joins us on the show now. Good morning to you, John Joe.
Want to tell your listeners?
I suppose on the face of it, I mean, there are some positives in this, but just we'll focus firstly on the three tiers at this point. We've already heard how it's following probably a British model, which has created quite a bit of poverty and disquiet over there. What do you believe the government's actual motivation is here?
Firstly, I think that if we take into account the UK model, not only has it caused disquiet and disharmony, but it's actually led to an increase in suicides amongst people with disabilities. And that's a terrible situation to be in. We can't look and try and mirror what the British government have done. What they've tried to do is, again, as you said, they've tried to divide and rule. And they've also penalised the most vulnerable in society to try and compensate for a shortfall in revenue. So they can try and save money in one area to then put it towards other areas, possibly for tax cuts. My biggest concern is that we're trying to mirror that there is a lot of disquiet that the current corporation tax revenues that we're getting will eventually reduce. With the ageing population, perhaps a negative kickback against PRSI increases to compensate for keeping the pension age as it is. The government is looking to save money in the social welfare budget. And again, people with disabilities, children, young adults, and those living with disabilities all their lives are an easy target to go after. And I think it would be a very punitive and cruel system to implement, where people are subjected to further medical examinations, filling out forms, looking for doctors' questionnaires to get just to what they're entitled to.
Like, how can you determine who is fit to work and how fit to work? Like, if someone is on disability and they've lost the use of their left arm, if they have the use of the right arm, you know, not being facetious here at all, they could be deemed to be fit to work, but they may be of the view they simply cannot for a myriad of reasons, balance issues. I don't know what it is. I'm just using one, what would be, I think, a simple example as to how very confusing and how difficult it might be to actually deem someone's ability to work or face going on courses and training exercises and have the threat of their payments being cut.
That's a very valid point, but a lot of disabilities are hidden. They're unseen.
Yeah, for sure.
Even somebody with a physical disability may be suffering
but
from
I'm using one, sorry, John, I purposely use one where it's very cut and dry and clear, you know, and even in that scenario, you could end up back and forwarding an appeal. Not to mention, I think, the road you're going down now with the hidden disability, and I'll let you continue with it, but even in a very in-your-face obvious one, it's already complicated.
It's complicated, but again, you'd have to... We've got to focus on the system that they're trying to mirror. The British system has been privatised, sent out to private firms who are incentivised to put people into employment, regardless of their medical situation. They make money by making sure that people actually go into employment. I would hate to see us go down that road. What we have to do, and a key thing for me, especially with hidden disabilities, is if we spend the money now by ensuring that children, young adults, the people with disabilities, be they hidden or relatively, you can see them, we can save money in the future. But what we've done as a state is we have a completely underfunded and in crisis situation for supplying support for people with additional needs and medical conditions. We have no speech and language therapists. We have no OTs. We have a complete crisis in the child disability network teams, and that is storing up a problem for the future. It would be far more economic sense, and we would save far more money now by investing in supporting people with disabilities, be they hidden or seen, and that would ensure that we allow them and we create them and give them the ability, the confidence, and the pathway into whatever type of employment we can possibly give them.
And John Joe, we'll
come short-sighted activity.
We will come back to this issue because I believe it's going to be an important one. But the Minister says this is about supporting people with a disability who want to work. You see it, though, as a cost-cutting exercise, and you say that we may see the devastating impacts this has had on people in Britain reflected here.
I believe that you should always look at evidence with your eyes. They are trying to mirror the British system. If we look to what the British system has inflicted on those with disabilities, It has caused misery, it has caused pain, and sadly it has caused an increase in suicide rates within the UK and Northern Ireland. These are the facts. And if we mirror this system by allowing the private enterprise to come in and then subject those most vulnerable in our society to an increased medical interventions and further reports, doctors' reports, medicals, what we'll end up with is a small proportion of people that, yes, there will be some that will benefit from a pathway to employment, but what we'll see is nothing but a cost-cutting exercise to allow our government to save money by attacking the most vulnerable in our society.
Okay.
And this part of the proposal has to be looked at in more depth and more detail, and I would hope that the politicians, especially those that we voted for in Donegal, would raise their voices and look to what has happened in the UK.
Yeah, but I don't understand what. But politics. I don't know what's wrong with politics in this country. But these issues they don't take up, or it seems they're not taking up at council level. In fairness, now there's been good work in raising the OT, speech language therapists. Recently, there's been an uptake in that. But these are the big issues affecting us and so many of our children, and we have to start the conversations here in the hope that they end up being had in the Dáil. It's crazy, but we'll come back to it. Thank you very much indeed, John Joe. I do appreciate your time this morning. That's John Joe McGinley there. If you've got a view, 08660 25,000. But we're not our young people, to give them the best chance of employment. You have early intervention where they're assisted with their speech, occupational therapy for the mobility, so that they can go to school, get an education as equal to other children as they possibly can, and then as they head towards, support them through their teenage years and into adulthood, facilitate them going to college, have proper transport that allows that to happen, and then maybe look at, say, well, could you work? Instead, we've got this big gap in services and development, and then sort of saying, well, we believe you can work, or we're going to cut your money. I don't know. It's just we seem to do things either all the time or some of the time here backwards, which I don't understand. Okay, let's take a break for...
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Okay, it is 11 o'clock. It's time for a news update, and it's good morning, Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. File and Rank Gardaí are withdrawing overtime today as their protest against a pre-COVID roster escalates. The Garda Representative Association remains locked in a dispute with Commissioner Drew Harris over the scheduled return of the old roster on November 6th. GRA members intend to withdraw their voluntary overtime every Tuesday in October, with threats of a blue flu in November if the Commissioner doesn't defer his plans. A councillor says there is an urgent need for traffic calming measures on the L114 from the junction to Bonaghy to the crossroads at Letterkenny Concrete and Quarry Products premises. Officials said some traffic calming measures have been recently introduced on the road, and an assessment will be carried out to establish if additionally safety measures can be added to improve the safety of the junction with Killian Road. As Halloween approaches, Gardaí are appealing to parents to talk to their children about the dangers of fireworks. Sergeant Garda Paul Wallace spoke with Greg Hughes on this morning's 9 till Noon show. He reminded the public that an import licence is required for all fireworks, and to hold such items with intent to sell or supply, ignite or throw is an offence which can result in fines of up to €10,000 and imprisonment. People on social welfare and the state pension are expected to see an increase of at least €12 a week after next week's budget. The Irish Independent says a lump sum fuel allowance and double payment of all social welfare rates before Christmas are also being considered by ministers. The government's yet to sign off on all budget measures to be announced next Tuesday. And finally, homes and businesses may be left without water today as repairs to a burst water main are ongoing in North Inishowen. The affected areas include Carraway Road, Springfield, Balmain, Carndonagh and surrounding areas. A traffic management plan will be in place for the duration of the works, which are scheduled to be complete at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Uisce recommends waiting up to 3 hours after this time for supplies to fully return. Those are the latest headlines. The next news updates at 12 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Okay, Donna Marie, thank you very much indeed. Back with more after the break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring biggest ever sale. Up to 50% off everything in store. All tiles, all wood flooring, all outdoor slabs, cladding and bathware. Everything slashed in price. This sale is not to be missed. The Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring biggest ever half-price sale is now on.
If you know the beauty and skincare product that suits you best, you'll find them at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From moisturisers, cleansers and toners to day creams and night creams, McGee's have the top brands you know and love, like Lancôme, Clarins and La Roche-Posay. Also Elizabeth Arden, Vichy, Nukes and many more. All at McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny, and online at mcgees.ie, where the best costs less.
The Hyundai Big Weekend of Offers is happening October 7th and 8th at dealerships nationwide. Test drive the 2024 Hyundai range, including the all-new Kona, Ireland's best-selling car, the Tucson, and winners of World Car of the Year, the Ioniq 5 and the Ioniq 6. Avail of the big selection of offers when you book your 241 model. The Hyundai Big Weekend of Offers, October 7th and 8th.
Your local Hyundai dealer is Divers Hyundai, Canal Road, Letterkenny. Open this Saturday 7th from 10 to 4 and Sunday from 12 to 4.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Euro Millions jackpot is a guaranteed €17 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Cardja maha. Tá gcónaí an sin dó. Ol agus math. Is má leis nuair a bhíam hart. Éon uair a bhíonn sé ag dul amach faim an gléach. Agus lá aigean, is dócha go mar óig mé.
Ní cara maithe an tabhac. Is féidir an smacht atá aige ort a bhriсе leis de 28 lá. Fáil amach conas éireas an gahaf tabhac ag quit.ie. Ó aimeanach na séirbhíse sláinte.
RTE have announced that Airtel will close next week. It's been in service for 3 decades. It's been running since 1986. Will be switched off on Thursday, the 12th of October. And they're to a person. Journalists are crying about it on social media. They're like, oh, it's the end of an era. I don't get it. I didn't really use it that much. Some say they practice the news reading and all that kind of stuff on it. So Airtel's going. Are you upset? Did it mean anything to you? Is it the end of an era? I mean, it's not going. There's no chance of retaining it. But when was the last time you pressed the text button on your TV to check stuff out? Are you sad that Airtel is gone or going on the 12th? As I say, an awful lot of digital tears on social media from particularly the journalistic fraternity. But as I say, I can't even feign that because it's not something I really used that much. I remember Channel 4 text used to have quizzes on it. And I used to go on and try and do the quiz in the Channel 4 text every day. And then some days someone didn't bother updating it and I was all disappointed and stuff. But anyway, do you miss or will you miss Teletext, RT's Teletext service? Can I play a couple of requests, please? I want to say hello to John Porter. He's in Buncrana and he's 82 tomorrow. Happy birthday tomorrow, John. That comes in from Jimmy. Johnny Bell from Bella Buffet celebrates his 21st birthday today. Happy birthday, Johnny, from Martin, Maeve and your 2 brothers. Hope you have a lovely day. 21. It's not... do people still do 21st birthday parties and stuff now? I don't know. It's that long since... but with one coming up next year, actually, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Can you give a big happy birthday to Brown Sauce? That's her nickname from everyone on the Maggins bus. She's heading to Westport at the weekend. Have a good one. Don't even want to know where the Brown Sauce... where the Brown Sauce nickname came from. Oops, my apologies. I have Roisin holding on line 1. Roisin, apologies. I didn't know you were there. Good morning. I did know you were there, but I forgot. Good morning, Roisin.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Good. Right. Now, you contacted us off the back of news reports of an increase in Strep A over the course of the last year. And, you know, figures published of the amount of people that were affected by this. You had invasive Strep A earlier this year, did you?
I did, yes. Back in March.
Right.
Yeah.
And what was your experience?
Strep A. I was very sick. I got sepsis and pneumonia with it. So I was really sick with it. Now I was in ICU for a while, and I was in hospital for 16 days in total. And I had to have 2 operations clear the infection.
Wow, really? Okay. And how did it come on? How long were you sort of off form before it was clear, Roisin, that something else was going on?
It came on quite quickly. I actually just had a baby, a baby girl, a fourth baby, and she was born on the 8th of March, and I just went downhill after that, and on the 13th of March I was admitted then into hospital. So she was only 5 days old when I went into hospital. So it was in ICU. I went straight into ICU.
And when people hear sepsis and people hear pneumonia, I mean, those two things are serious on their own, but to have both of them at the same time, you must have been really sick, Roisin.
I was pretty sick, yes, because I went to the GP that day, and my blood pressure was basically non-existent, and my temperature and blood pressure was through the roof. So, they said, they rang an ambulance and said I had to go straight in.
Oh, my word. And you, as you say, just 5 days after having a baby as well, so your body's still in recovery mode from that as much as everything else, Roisin.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. The way the consultant described it, he says once you have a baby, when you have a baby, your body shuts down for a few days. So I would have had the strep A before the baby was born, but I didn't realise. My body would have been fighting it off, but then once my body shut down, the virus just took hold and took over my body, and that's when sepsis and pneumonia then crept in as well.
And you said you had to have 2 operations to remove the sepsis. Is that unusual or usual, or is it an extreme case, Roisin?
I'm not sure actually. When they took me into theatre for the first time, they didn't actually know it was strep A at that stage. Because when I went into hospital, they knew I had sepsis and pneumonia, and they knew I had an infection in the stomach, but they didn't know what was causing it or where it came from. So they were giving me all different types of antibiotics, and I was just getting worse. And my temperature, couldn't get my temperature down. So that was on the Monday, and then on the Thursday, they made the decision to take me into theatre because they basically couldn't get the temperature under control. And it was the next day, the Friday, that they discovered I had strep A. They were growing growth. They had 2 samples when I went into hospital, so they were growing growth cultures. And it was only when they came back on the Friday that they saw that it was strep A.
And what were
so then they were able to give me.
Sorry, Roisin, what were your family being told? Were they being told how sick were they told you were?
They knew it was serious. The consultant was very open with us, and he was. I have to praise the hospital staff; they were absolutely fantastic. The consultant did say to my husband that they were very, very concerned for me.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And they were, I literally had teams of doctors around my bed every day. They were. They were doing everything they could, really, to find out what it was and what was causing it. And they actually, because I just had a baby, they actually gave me a private room up in maternity and just had a nurse stationed with me 24/7, so that my husband was able to bring the baby into me then every day. Because otherwise, if I was in ICU, the baby wouldn't have been able to come in.
No, and I think as part of your recovery and sort of keeping your spirits up in a tough time, you would need to have seen your family. There's no doubt about that. And how long after that then did you start showing signs of improvement that you were sort of over the worst of it, Roisin?
Well, after the first operation, once they realised that it was strep A and they were able to give me the correct antibiotics and correct medication then, within the next few days, I started feeling, but I still would have been on a lot of medication from the operation, recovering from it, so everything would have been still very blurry until I eased off on the medication. So it was probably a good week and 10 days in the hospital before, I'd say a good 10 days before I started to feel back to my normal self again.
Right. And all good since, and baby and family are good now?
Yes, Yes. No, back to full health again now. And it took a few months once I got out of hospital to get back. I was still very, very weak after I got out of hospital.
Yeah.
So we actually had loads of help and support from family and friends, and we wouldn't have been able to, to cope otherwise, really.
Well, we're going to be doing a feature on this programme in the not too distant future, Unsung Heroes, where, we interview people who may not ordinarily be interviewed on radio and talk about their lives and achievements. Let's talk about your husband here, because he's the real hero.
You know what? He absolutely, yeah.
We don't get enough credit, Roisin.
He was really thrown in the deep end of it now, because I actually was breastfeeding the baby up until I went into hospital.
Yeah.
And so he had to, the maternity actually gave us a few bottles of formula then to keep us going, because my body was so sick I wasn't able to make any milk at all myself. So he had to learn. We never bottle fed at all, any of the other babies, so he had to learn how to bottle feed. He had to go and buy all the bottles and formula and up during the night feeds and everything. He would never have done all that before, obviously, because I was breastfeeding. So he was really
worried sick about you too, which, jokes aside. Now, we're getting a 2-for-1 here, because, of course, it is Breastfeeding Awareness Week. You were breastfeeding, as you mentioned, up until you got sick, and then, obviously, your sickness interfered with your ability to produce milk, but you were able to pick it up again there afterwards once you returned home, Roisin.
I did, yes. I hired a hospital-grade pump and just expressed every few hours, and got my supply back again, and got back exclusively breastfeeding then within a few weeks of being home.
Wow, okay, so that's real determination.
So it can be just to start out to, and do you know what? It can be done if anybody has to stop breastfeeding for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
They can get back to it if they feel the need to. They definitely can do that. Yeah.
So just to be clear, what we're talking about there is your body stopping supplying because they think you either don't need it or you're not doing it, and then you have to re-encourage your body to start producing milk again. Have I picked that up correctly, Roisin? And you can do that. Is that what you're saying? Okay, perfect. Okay,
exactly. Yeah.
So as I say, We read earlier on about how bad strep A can be, and I think maybe an awful lot of people might associate it with younger people, kids and all, which are vulnerable and can be exposed to it. But it's a reminder to all of us to, again, trust our guts. And if we're not feeling right, to just rule it out or get it ruled out as best as possible.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Don't take any chances, because there's a lot of things going around since COVID, since just everybody's been reintroduced back into the community, and a lot of infections seem to have got worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm delighted to hear that you're back in good form and the family's happy and healthy. And as I say, Roisin, it's really useful to help us get that info across. I really appreciate your time, and best wishes to everybody.
Brilliant. And thanks for taking the call, Greg. Thank you.
Bye-bye. So really, just to give that a little bit further context, the Health Protection Surveillance Centre warned of a surge in strep A cases. Cases of the variant of strep known as IGAS are 4 to 5 times higher than expected. So in some instances, obviously, as we heard, it could be deadly and can be deadly. And we heard Roisin's close shave with it there. 12 childhood and 18 adult deaths linked to IGAS here in the last 12 months. And between January and June of this year, 350 cases recorded across the country. And that compares to an average of around 78 cases before the pandemic. So certainly good advice. And thanks to Roisin there for sharing her story.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Enter the Virgin Media Playhouse and unleash our best offers. It's time to play with our €100 gift voucher to spend your way when you choose full fibre 500 meg broadband for just €39 a month for 12 months and no activation fee. So switch today at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media. It's playtime.
T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie. Subject to location and availability. New customers only. 12-month contract. 500 meg broadband. €70 thereafter. Ends October 11th, 2023.
Are you looking to diversify your sources of funding but just don't have the time to do the research? Please join us, the WIL, Ireland's National Association of Charities, Community Groups and Social Enterprises, on Wednesday 4th of October in the Central Library, Letterkenny, for our Funding Roadshow, where we will answer all your funding questions. Learn about different types of funding opportunities available to your organisation at a local, national and EU level. Find out where future funding will come from, as well as tips for addressing challenges that will arise. This is a free event, but registration is essential. For all the details, visit will.ie.
My spelling always stopped me from doing things, but thanks to my class with Donegal Education and Training Board, I've learned how the computer can help. It was hard to take the first step, but now there is no holding me back.
Literacy changes lives. Make a change in your life today by contacting Donegal ETB and find a class that suits you.
If you'd like to volunteer to help someone make that change, call in to your local Donegal Education and Training Board Further Education and Training Centre.
Supported by Adult Literacy for Life, the Government of Ireland and the European Union.
Welcome to the Spa at Orchids, one of Europe's largest spas at the Holyrood Hotel, Bundoran. Discover tranquility in our Japanese-themed garden, boasting 7 treatment rooms, seaweed baths, and a secret garden with an outside hot tub and sauna. Now, let me take you to the heart of Bundoran, where you'll find the Holyrood Hotel Spa and Leisure Centre. Don't miss out on our exclusive midweek hotel specials. More information at holyroodhotel.com.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at
19 minutes past 11, and we say good morning to Kathy Summers, CEO of the CX Company and author of Irish Customer Experience Report. Good morning to you, Kathy.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Thanks. Thank you so much for your time. So, can you give us this? I think it's been in existence since 2015. So, what is the background to this report, and how does one select which companies are surveyed? I suppose.
So, we set up the report back in 2015, and the whole purpose really was to be able to benchmark companies in Ireland for the customer experience that they deliver. So we looked at things like the Times Top 1000 report, and looked at all the different sectors that we wanted to cover to put the key companies in there. So we're at 150 companies this year. It varies slightly from year to year.
And is it across sort of media, health? And obviously,
yes.
Other different types of companies?
Yeah, so we cover 11 different sectors. So we've got supermarket, retail, travel, financial, insurance, public sector, restaurants. So we cover all the full range of any companies really that deal with customers.
And how do you gather the information, Kathy?
So there's a survey that goes out. It's done once a year. We partner with a research company called Amorok, and we go out to 2,500 consumers and select a panel of people and ask them to give us feedback on companies that they've interacted with as a customer. We ask them about 17 different questions, all based around their customer experience.
Now, the companies or the sort of, I suppose, the sector, the Irish Credit Union, there's a whole lot of them and they're independent and under umbrella to some extent. They continue to top the poll in terms of customer satisfaction.
They do indeed. We just have them in as the credit union, so it's a sort of a catch-all for all of them, and they have been number one, started the survey back in 2015, so that's 9 years in a row. It's a fantastic achievement. And interestingly, this year, they've actually increased their score, and there's a bigger gap between them and the next best brand. So, I think they've really been able to adapt the experience they deliver, and they've gone into the whole area of digital. So I think they're very well placed to be able to compete with the banks and offer more complex products like mortgages for customers.
How did supermarkets perform, I wonder? Because there's been an awful lot of conversation about profit gouging and what have you, increased costs and the cost of living. And just interested to see how that might be reflected in a report like this.
So the supermarkets, interestingly enough, are actually the top sector and have been for the last 4 years. So there is a large number of their brands in the top 20. And, I think the prices definitely have gone up in our weekly shop. What the supermarkets have been really good at doing is that looking at how they deliver value to customers. And value is, not just what we pay, but it's what we get, and the experience is a part of that. So being able to give instant value through their loyalty programs, so the likes of Tesco Club Card prices, the Dunnes Stores vouchers, all of those are aimed at offering value. And, that it is a highly competitive sector. So where you have got similar products and similar prices, it's the customer experience that really gives you the edge in terms of business performance.
And our perception too, I suppose, really, aren't you? That's what we're kind of going by as well. If it's perceived that they're looking after us, well, it's gonna be reflected high. In fairness to it is quite reflective of some of the controversies like the passport situation. We're not hearing as many complaints as we had in the past, so faith in that service seems to have increased a little bit. NCT, a lot of controversy around NCT, National Car Testing. They fell down the rankings. Unavailability of tests, backlogs and long delays. And of course, the one that's gathering all the headlines is the basement club, to use football terms, and that's RTE. And it has seen quite a collapse in terms of the customer experience.
It has. So its customer experience score has gone down by 17%, which is the biggest drop we've seen in the last 3 years. But most importantly is that we measure customer experience on a number of factors, things like making it easy, how well each company understands the customer's needs. But the key one is trust. And RTE's trust score has dropped by 25%. And trust is so important. It's integral in every relationship we have. It's built up slowly over time through every interaction, but it's quite fragile and can be easily lost, which is obviously what has happened in RTE's case. And, it can be very time consuming and very costly to build that trust back up again. So, they've got a job ahead, which I think they're acknowledging that. So, it'll be interesting to see how they build that back up, because it's not just the scandal, and the Ryan Tubridy issue. There were other comments came back from customers around things like poor programming, the number of repeats, the RTE player not being fit for purpose. So there's a number of issues that really need to be addressed from a customer perspective.
Yeah, since I sort of read the findings initially, I tried, and I was thinking in my head how they could rehabilitate themselves. And it's a very difficult area because they're also in the business of disseminating news, and covering politics and all that kind of stuff. It could be really, really difficult for them to bounce back from this, but they'll probably look at the viewership and listenership figures and take comfort in those. At this moment, do you survey independent media? And if you don't, will you? Because I think that would be interesting. The more people consume independent media than they do RTE, for an example, and there is a precedent there with the credit unions being under the one sort of category. Do you include independent media? And if not, why not?
We don't include independent media at the moment. We include the main sort of content providers, so the likes of Sky and Virgin. So they're obviously providing services.
Yes, but in Ireland, they aren't the main content providers. The main content providers in Ireland are
the radio.
Media.
Yes, yeah.
And News Talk and Virgin Media and all. It would just be really interesting, actually, to see a comparison. And it might actually buck up. It might actually buck up media generally in this country if there were a sort of a public versus sort of private comparison there.
Yeah, and is that every year we would review which brands and which sectors we put into the survey. For example, we added in logistics and delivery last year. Yeah. So, we're looking at that and reviewing it, and definitely something to think about.
How did Air get on? Are Air in there separately, EIR?
They are indeed. Last year they were bottom of the table, and they've actually moved off the bottom. They had the biggest increase in score of all the companies of 22%. So again, it's encouraging. They've had a real focus on customer experience. Yes, there are still a lot of challenges, but it's one of those things that you've got to keep doing all the time. You've got to be improving and moving forward. And I think they're a good example of that. So hopefully for their sake, that continues.
It's all very interesting, Kathy. We look forward to see what happens next year. Have a lovely day. Take care of yourself. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thanks very much.
Bye. Have a lovely day. Kathy Summers there, CEO of the CX Company and author of Irish Customer Experience Report. It comes out as credit unions are rated the most trusted organisation in Ireland. And we have the wonderful Letterkenny Credit Union on board, great supporters of this programme as well, so that ties in nicely, albeit by a pleasant coincidence. And RTE, rock bottom of the pile. As I say, I would not like trying to rehabilitate RTE because of the area in which they work in. Right, okay. Shall we do some comments before the break? My father lost his arm at the age of 36. When he recovered, he worked every day of his life until he passed away at the age of 76. R.I.P. And indeed, the example I was trying to give is it's actually something that came up from a study I was watching in England, where someone was effectively told, well, you can use your other hand, even though it wasn't just a missing arm that was the issue, if you get where I'm coming from. Greg, when are the rules coming into force on e-scooters? They're everywhere and so dangerous. Two passed me on the footpath on Main Street in Buncrana. No bell to let me know they were at your heels, and no helmet. Scary things. November, I think. Oh, no, I think that's actually... I'm confusing it with the quads. I'm not sure there's actual timeline at this point. I thought an increase for those unable to work was a good idea. I know some people with a disability who work, they could not work full time, so the 220 is a great help. But even those who have not found work are far better off than those whose disability removes any chance of work. Hi, Greg. How did a proposal to increase disability payments for some categories become a decrease? Currently 220, proposed minimum 220, mid-range 240, worst level 260. This is not the UK system, but we're starting with a new system. I didn't call it a deduction. I did compare it a reduction from the top rate downwards, but I wasn't comparing it to the current price, the current payment structures. But I appreciate you offering some balance there. Fantastic work by the Gardaí, Navy and the Army Rangers. We don't praise them often enough for the dangerous job that they do. And on it goes. Okay, we are going to be talking about... we're going to be speaking to a volunteer support officer with a loan. They're looking to recruit. They're having a number of open days as well. All that's coming up. But first, let us take a quick break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Shop Evolve Clothing, Napa Peary, Carhartt, Diesel, Jack & Jones, and many more casual and streetwear brands. Menswear Superstore, Letterkenny Retail Park, or online at evolveclothing.com. 2 floors of fashion, open 7 days.
Toast your Christmas party this year at Century Complex with delicious food, a superb atmosphere and excellent service. We have something to suit everyone. Make your night extra special by adding a premium cinema experience. To book, call 074 9121976 or visit centurycinemas.ie for more information on Century Complex this Christmas.
Fancy a game of bingo? Play at Strand Bingo, Strand Road, open 7 days a week. Free bus every Tuesday from Letterkenny, stopping at Manor Cunningham, Newton Cunningham and Killay. Contact Marley Coaches for more information. Play Tuesdays from just £5 for 6 chances to win £300 with free food available. Check out boyledbingoclub.com or download our app for more info.
More and more people are moving to rural Ireland, but we're not here in Donegal for a slower pace of life.
We're here because rural Ireland is alive.
Brimming with ideas and energy.
The only thing holding us back is slow broadband. It's CAT. Pure glacial.
So why wait? Imagine broadband speed gives us the freedom to connect without compromises.
Imagine Broadband is connecting homes and businesses in your community right now. For better service and faster broadband faster, switch to imagine.ie. Imagine. Faster broadband faster.
Subject to location and availability.
If you fancy going out for a bit of lunch today, or any day, pop into Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny. There's great choice and great value on the packed menu. Choose from fresh gourmet sandwiches, a hot chicken wrap, or bacon and cheese baked potato. Try the Kelly's signature special with hot turkey slices and smoked bacon, or maybe a chicken and bacon Caesar salad. Treat yourself to some lunch at Kelly's award-winning diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Now, you're very welcome back to the programme. Helena Madden is a volunteer support officer with Alone. Good morning to you, Helena. Sorry, I haven't even got your fader. Good morning to you, Helena.
Morning, Greg.
Great to have you on the show. Talk to us about Alone, just to remind people. I think people will be familiar with the work, but always good to start off with a brief outline of what you do.
Absolutely, and a lot of people are coming up to me lately saying, I didn't realise Alone was in Donegal. So Alone is a charity or an organisation that works primarily to help older people remain living in their own homes for as long and safely as they possibly can. So we provide integrated systems of support coordination to link older people in with the services that will allow them to remain staying at home in their own communities where they've always lived for their entire lives, to stay connected to that community.
So if an older person engages with Alone, what kind of interaction do they have with your group? Like, how do you support them or empower them, I suppose, to stay in their own homes?
Yeah, so we have a load of different, I suppose, areas that we can help them with. So we do, I suppose, there is supports around befriending. So a lot of older people come to us and say they're lonely or they're feeling isolated and they're not getting out a lot. So we can provide them with our program. We do visitation support and befriending, in which we place a volunteer with an older person for 1 hour per week. And that volunteer calls into the older person to have a cup of tea and a chat. And that's it, just a bit of friendship. It doesn't have to be set days and set times. It can be different days and different times weekly, depending on the volunteer schedule. We have a telephone befriending service as well for older people that might be a bit more shy and that might want somebody to call to their home. We have volunteers that work on our telephone lines, and older people sign up for the service. They can have 1 call up to 5 calls per week, Monday to Friday. They specify the time and the day that they want the call. And we have volunteers that phone up to see how they're doing. We call them friendly calls. They call up and they say, hello, how are you doing today? And the conversation goes from there.
I mean, there's a load of reasons as to why someone might end up being isolated. Maybe their partner passed away. Maybe they're not as mobile as they were. Maybe the local post office closed, or maybe they used to go out for a pint or something and they no longer do. Maybe they've withdrawn a little into themselves since COVID, because I think there's an awful lot of that as well, and still nervous to step out. And I wish we could do more to try and encourage people to do that. But as I say, those are just some of the many examples as to why people from one end of the week to the other might not have contact, and that has a horrible impact on people, that absolute isolation.
It does. It has a huge effect, and studies have shown that it increases cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's, blood pressure, heart disease in older people that are being isolated and feeling lonely. So I suppose we're in there then to make them not feel like that anymore with the service that we offer for them, whether it be through getting them a befriender or a telephone call, or whether it be linking them in with the care teams or the social prescribers locally to get them a plan where they're able to get out and about and join society and become part of society again. Like you said, a lot of older people over COVID sat in because that was the advice, and they followed the advice to the letter, and everybody was so good. And it's not even that they're scared to come out anymore. They've just gotten to such a habit of sitting in that they kind of have forgot what it's like to get out and about. And we find when we place the volunteers in, or we place them with a social prescriber, or the support coordinator goes in and helps them with whatever it is that they need to help with, whether it be accessing healthcare, occupational therapy, or getting supports in if they need walking aids or that it gives them a new lease of life. And then they're able to get up and become part of society and get out, and they get the confidence back to get out and do it.
Yeah, indeed. So we've talked about the benefit of the service users, or whatever way you might describe them, the older people that you work with. And we're going to be talking about recruitment in a moment. So I just want sort of maybe the anecdotal experience you have, or the feedback you get from your volunteers. What do they get from it? What does it mean to them?
We have the best volunteers in Donegal and in CHO1. they just get so much back from it. They say not only do they get the joy in knowing that they're helping somebody to not be lonely, but the wisdom then that they get from the people that they're visiting, and the stories and just the history in itself that the people that bring to them, do you know, the pure enjoyment of it becomes friendships in a lot of cases. Like we have volunteers. Alone just started, I suppose, in Donegal about 2 years ago. Before that, it was smaller groups that all came into the one band of Alone, and it was the Good Morning service before that. And we have volunteers that have been with us for 10 years or more. Like I was chatting to one lady yesterday, and she's been a volunteer with us since 2017, visiting the same older person since then. Do you know, so it really becomes a friendship, you know, between the older person.
Do you support people in that, you know, this isn't a counselling service, but it's a listening ear, and I suppose maybe there are, you know, little flags that maybe you want to keep an eye out for during conversation or what have you. Do you trust people's sort of own intuition, or is there some guidance given there too, Helena?
Yeah, no, 100%. So all the volunteers that come into us, they get an interview. So they come in, they get a short video about what Alone does. It's about 20 minutes. They get interviewed by me. Then they get a training session, whether it be by Zoom or in person, and we support them. We do it's a 2-hour-long training session, and we support them through that. And the volunteers know that there are eyes and ears, there are Alone's representatives on the ground to those older people they're visiting, that if they know little changes, or maybe they think that, God, do you know what, this is different than it was last month, or I think this person could use this or could use that, they can contact us, and we link them in with the older person again. So we very, very much rely on our volunteers to be our eyes and ears on the ground, because they'll be seeing the older people that they're matched with as regular as anybody else that the people is connected to.
Yeah, and of course, that's motivation in and of itself to have a positive impact on someone's life. But look, at the same time, too, we are a country with 100% unemployment effectively. And, you know, this is a lovely thing to have on your CV if you're looking to explore job opportunities or move around. A lot of employers like volunteer work, and it's a great sign of someone's character. And as I say, that would never be someone's motivation, but hey, if it's a nice bonus along with it too, all well and good. As I say, volunteering is always looked on really favourably. So what kind of and I think it varies. There's the phone interactions, and then there is the sort of visiting. What kind of a commitment, before we talk about where people can get more information face to face, what kind of commitment normally or do people sort of really do you want from people effectively?
Yeah, so it's actually really easy, and I think it's a lot less than what people think. So the telephone service, we look for a 2-hour commitment per week, and it's a rota schedule. So to make the calls to the older people, and they're not going to be on the phone for a solid 2 hours, you know, like there'll be so many calls that come up that they make. And that's 6 months for 2 hours per week. And then the visitation befriending is just 1 hour on one day per week that suits you to call out to an older person. And we look for a commitment of a year with that. But within those roles, it's very, very flexible. Like I realize people's volunteers, they have lots going on, their work, and they have kids, they have groups they're involved with, you know, they go on holidays, you know, and that's fine. And I think the bottom line is that that's fine if you're busy. We can still make it work for you. You know, it's the 1 hour, and we're very flexible in our approach towards that.
And most people are really, really caring and giving, but not everyone necessarily has the resources to donate to charity or the time to fully commit to something or other. This allows people that want to have a genuine, really, really important positive impact on another person's life, particularly as the age. It's an amazing thing to be part of. You know what I mean? Like,
it is,
and as I say, it doesn't really cost the person anything other than a little bit of their time in the week. But how rewarding it must be to know that you're having this impact on another human's life.
It is, and a lot of the older people that are in Donegal that are waiting for volunteers is waiting 6 months to a year. And if you're somebody who doesn't see a lot of people from 1 week to the next, a year is a huge amount of time. And a lot of the people that are in our service are they're the older of the older people. So they're the 70s and 80s pluses. So, I mean, those people wait and sit in a year on their own lonely, you know, it's not fair. And all it takes is maybe somebody in your community has an hour per week for you to call in and have that cup of tea and a chat, completely transform that person's life that you're calling into. You know,
do you have an idea of how many older people are waiting on?
I have an exact idea. So across Donegal, we have 183 older people currently waiting for a visit. So there's 61 in the Finn Valley area, 37 in Inishowen, 33 in North Central Donegal. So that's from Letterkenny, out Ramelton, Milford, Fanad, Creasla, Dunfanaghy direction. 31 in South Donegal, and 21 in the Glenties, Ardra, and Ross.
So these are older people that have engaged with the service and said, I'd love to have a befriending service, and they're waiting.
And they're waiting, and they're deemed necessary of the service. So I suppose we make sure that the people that they're getting befrienders really need that support, that they're just not thrown into, I suppose, somebody that has heaps of support and lots going on, that these people, these 183 people, are in need of somebody to visit them for that hour per week.
Right. All right, okay. So there's a couple of open days, volunteer recruitment days, you could call them, in early October, which we're in right now. On Friday, the Central Library, Letterkenny, between 10:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And that's drop-in. Now, you're not expecting people to come in at 10:30 and leave at 5:30. You're open.
No, it's drop-in. All the open days that we're doing is drop-in open days for people to get information, whether it be about them wanting to volunteer with us or get more information about that, or even about the services. There'll be support coordinators in on the day as well about the services that Alone has to offer. All
right, Central Library, Letterkenny, this Friday, 10:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Drop in any time between those hours. Saturday, the 7th of October, in the Finn Valley Centre in Ballybofey from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in case that suits you better. Just give me that number again. 137, did you say?
183 older people.
I beg your pardon. 183 older people have been have engaged with Alone, have been assessed that they are needing of a befriending / telephone support service. So a lot of volunteers. Well, it's not a lot considering there's 163 odd thousand of us in this county, but it should be doable. I hope you have a huge. Well, I hope if anyone's actually listening now, can they and you know, they may be listening in Killybegs, for an example, or Dunlow or Malin, and they would like to, but they can't get along to Letterkenny or Ballybofey. Can they speak to you outside of these open days?
They can indeed. They can get me from Monday to Friday from 9 to 5. I have an email address they can get me on, helena.madden@alone.ie. And Greg, you have my phone number details. I can leave those with you as well. Or they can go onto our Alone's website, www.alone.ie, and there's a wee box that they can tick for volunteering. It asks them to put in their details, so their address and their telephone number and their email address, and then they'll come through to me and I will get them started or give them whatever information they need to make their decision to get started with us.
Okay, I hope you get a wee run on it now after this.
It would be great. It would be so great for them people waiting, you know, that you could tell them just the joy when you tell somebody who's been waiting 6 months or a year that we found them somebody that's going to visit them. The joy that it brings them, like, and the look on their face. And I always say to the volunteers in the training sessions, the look when they meet that older person for the first time is just what makes the whole thing work and why we do what we do. Just to get that end result, to see that older person happy and content, feeling safe, and that they're connected to the community.
Let's have a cup of tea and a chat, or glass of milk.
A cup of tea and a chat, a bit of fun,
bit of laugh. It's not caring or anything like that, just so people are clear. I just want to make sure. Yeah. So I really hope you get a wee run after the back of this conversation. Thanks. Your enthusiasm and your love of what you do, Helena, is infectious, and hopefully it's come across the same way it has to me to others. And those almost not far off 200 older people who are waiting for a friend, effectively, get it. Okay, thanks so much. It's been lovely speaking to you. It really has.
Thanks a million,
so
Greg.
very much indeed. Okay, there you are. Let us know if you're going to get in contact with them or attend the open days. 086 60 25,000. Very inspiring, Helena, there.
The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
At Shannon Airport, we know what makes a dream holiday. It's not just the huge choice of destinations like Lanzarote, Malaga, Edinburgh, Paris, and Boston. It's the unique features that make getting through our airport a dream, like affordable, easy access parking just steps away from your departure gate. So whatever dream holiday you're packing for, head for shannonairport.ie. With more destinations than ever and a hassle-free airport experience, we'll get your holiday off to a dream start. Shannon Airport, making it easy.
Well, Grace, how are you today? I'm good. I've just been down to the Made to Measure Fireplaces showroom in Creasla. They have an incredible selection of over 40 colours for kitchen worktops. And guess what? For a limited time, they're offering a 40% discount on any electric fire when you purchase a worktop there.
40%? That's an amazing deal, Grace.
Absolutely. And trust me, if the discount alone doesn't sway you, their huge selection of fireplaces, stoves, wood pellet burners, beams and stone cladding certainly will.
Contact Made to Measure Fireplaces Creasla on 074 91 38 365 on Facebook, Instagram and on mtmfireplaces.ie.
Here's to the good stuff. The dip in the sea, the run after work, the catch up with friends, the come back to ours, the Kerrygold butter that's spread straight from the fridge for hot buttered toast, or a build your own sandwich, the chat round the table, the sharing of plates, of news and of tales, and the taste that means everything. Kerrygold spreadable butter, straight from the fridge. Kerrygold. May your table always be full.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport, where you can now fly daily to London Heathrow with Aer Lingus and connect via Heathrow to over 80 destinations worldwide, including Boston, New York and more.
So breezy today with sunny spells, scattered showers. Some will be on the heavier side. Winds moderate, but they'll continue fresh and gusty near the coast throughout the day. Temperatures ranging 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. Paul Dunleavy joins us on the show now. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning. Great. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to have you on the programme, and it's an interesting one. I haven't done something like this before. It is.
That is different.
Yeah, you've an idea for a show. It's called Chasing the Deal, and you're looking for a documentary maker, a producer, a TV crew who will turn this idea into a reality. You also have already got a sort of a pilot of it, which viewers to the programme can sort of watch as we talk. So talk to me about the concept of Chasing the Deal.
Okay, Greg. Well, basically, I suppose that's really all stemmed up from, we were living in Derry and we had a house that was sort of a Georgian-styled house, and we were looking to redecorate it, and we wanted furniture for it. But this was the kind of furniture that we couldn't buy in any shop new, or we couldn't get anywhere. So Josephine, my long-suffering other half, I suppose, Josephine was very good on the computer. So she was always scouring for sort of auction sites and car boot sales and places like that might be able to sort of supply us with the type of stuff that we wanted. So we basically started travelling around all of Ireland, from Cavan to Dublin to Newry, everywhere. And we bought period-style furniture, not necessarily antiques, maybe French Renaissance, Chesterfield buttoned leather suites, hand-carved furniture, stuff like that, but stuff that really worked well in the house. And, I mean, when we finished furnishing it, we stood back and we said, wow, that's incredible. And we were buying suites of furniture at that time that probably would have cost maybe €4,000 or €5,000 new. We were buying them maybe for 400 or 500. So the effect was incredible. We had saved a fortune of money. But more important than that, we really enjoyed what we'd done. So after we had done that, Greg, we were sitting in the house at the weekend thinking, what are we going to do now? We have no fun anymore. So we kept going to these places. We kept doing what we'd done. Now we were filling the house, because now we were almost in the hoarding arena. So you couldn't get into our house then without actually walking sideways and past the front hall. We had statues of Mike Tyson. We had electric guitars everywhere. It was just a mess. So we were left then, Greg, with only one option, and that was to sell the stuff that we didn't need, which we started doing. And we found out that because we liked it, other people also liked it.
Yeah.
So therein lies the whole concept of what we were doing.
Can I say,
Sure.
from what I've seen so far, and this is a compliment, not an insult, it seems to be very similar, is it, to the Salvage, not similar, but a concept to the Salvage Hunters TV show in Britain, is it, where you
yes.
acquire, some beautiful stuff, and we need a version of that show ourselves with Irish characters, people from here. It seems like a no-brainer. It seems handy to make too, and that's easy for me to say, says you. But do you know what I mean? You're ready to go. You've got a team.
Yeah.
You've got a concept.
Greg, we have it sitting on a plate for somebody to take us on. Normally, a TV producer would want a show like that. They've got to go and look for people like us, go and look for people that can restore the furniture, go and look for all this infrastructure. We have it. we've got the team, we're raring to go. So basically, all someone has to do is say, like, let's go. Maybe if they want to make a few changes or a few different sort of cash changes or whatever, that's okay. But just that particular show that you're talking about, let me give you an example. That particular show was in Belfast recently and called into 2 separate shops in Belfast that sells antiques. After they shot the show, when they had left and went back, the turnover of those 2 shops increased 40% because of the exposure that they got on the TV show. So this show has the potential, I think, to put Donegal on the map, to show, I suggest, the country and the world what we can do in Donegal.
All right,
somebody else can do it.
Can I play a little clip here? I think you're negotiating with a man in Buncrana. Is it? Let's just have a listen here.
All right.
This is Mickey. Well, we came down here today not really knowing what to expect. And we come around the corner and I saw these 2 teacups. Very nice, John.
Aye, all right.
Very unusual, my man.
Pretty unusual, aye.
As soon as I saw them, I thought, wow, these are very different. Of course, I couldn't show my enthusiasm because then I would have given the game away a little bit. Go on, John. How much are they, John, for the pair?
For the pair, I wouldn't separate them now. For the pair, you're chatting about €300.
Well, they're too dear for me, man.
They're reasonable, that. They're not too bad.
No, they're too dear for me. For me to have a go at them.
Yeah, and so do people start getting the experience. And as I say, we'll play the footage out. So these are 2 really unique sort of teacups, and you're bidding with the person that owns them. You have to sort of make sure there's a bit of margin in there for you. You have to see what you need to do to them, who you might sell them on to. So he gets a few quid, gets them out of his backyard. And then obviously you can try and find out where to market those or who gets them, and we follow you through that journey. As I say, it's not a brand new concept, but it's just lovely to see it well produced and with an Irish feel to it, you know?
Well, yes, there is that, Greg, but also a lot of the shows out there don't show, the shows that you're mentioning, and a lot of shows like this don't show from sort of conception to, or from conception to birth.
Yes.
We show the actual buying of it, the restoration of it, and finally, the most important part is selling it.
It is
where you have somebody tangible coming down.
Paul, that's the critical thing for me in these shows. I need to know not what the estimated value is what it's sold for. Because I want to know, you got those cups off him for 200 quid. I don't know how much you're going to have to spend doing them up, but I want to know, did you break even? Did you make a loss? Or did you make 600 quid? Do you know what I mean? That's the critical part of the programme that I need. I need to know what happens if you get it sold.
Correct. And we were emphatic about that because the other shows, and most of them don't show that because it takes more time and more effort and everything else. We want to really basically show that, yes, sometimes, Greg, now mind you, we miscue and we get it wrong. But more times than we will get it right.
Yeah.
And again, we have like Jerry Brett, who's in Bridgend, and there's a company called Save Our Sofas. They're fantastic. It's a family-run business. We've taken sofas to him in bits, Greg. I mean, and if you'd seen them, you'd say, go to the skip. A week later, we go back. Jerry has it all done. There's a masterpiece sitting in front of us.
Okay.
And that's the magic.
As I say, you've done all the hard work. You have it all done there, and people love this kind of stuff. How's discussions going with the likes of RTE, maybe TJ Cahir? They seem to actually see. The thing is Paul, we were talking a little earlier on about RTE. They're bottom of the list in terms of customer satisfaction. Some of the complaints were repeats and what have you. This is then what happens with RTE, and I'm not dragging you into this conversation, but they then throw money at some minor celebrity to go out foreign and do something or whatever it is, look at someone's teeth or whatever. We don't make enough proper homegrown shows like this, and they don't commission enough of them. I don't know why they don't, but they can actually sell a show like this to Discovery or to one of the streaming platforms as well. They really need to look at what they commission and how they commission it, because I would have argued that this is a no-brainer rather than sending someone who used to be in a boy band to Turkey.
Correct. Well, we were in discussions with an Irish broadcaster. I can't name the broadcaster, and they have us shortlisted. But they have us shortlisted now for quite a while, and apparently it's very hard to get shortlisted. It's just getting them to pass the line that's the problem, Greg. I feel I'm standing sometimes in front of a door and I have no key to open it. And if someone gives me the key, we'll open it and we will show them, and we'll put Donegal on the map. We'll show them what these local people can do. and we will make it entertaining and fun. And there's an appetite for this because it's all to do with the circular economy where nothing's thrown out, stuff's reused. I mean, if you look at even Letterkenny, there's some fantastic charity shops there. So somebody can go, buy something in their charity shop, take it home, ticky it up, paint it up, or clean it or do whatever, and sell it. And you're actually helping your local charity, but you're also helping yourself.
Right, I'm not being parochial here. As I say, I think it's actually a great idea, and this is the type of programming that maybe could start rehabilitating RTE, or even maybe one of the independent broadcasters or what have you. As I say, you've done all the hard work. You've got a pilot together, and as I say, we watch an awful lot of this stuff on UK satellite channels. Why don't we have a homegrown version of it? I hope it gets in front of the right set of eyes that can see the potential here, because I do wonder sometimes who actually commissions these shows and if they're blinded by celebrity or something, Paul. But anyway, the best of luck.
It's a tricky one, Greg. It's getting in front of the person. Sometimes you can't. I mean, one time years ago, you'd pick up the phone, you'd ring somebody, that day's gone. Now you have to send emails, they may or may not answer. If we can get in front of somebody give me 5 minutes in front of somebody, and if I don't sell it, I'm no good.
Yeah,
I'll do it if I get in front of someone.
I get you. All right, okay.
We can also do an Irish version because Tagaligagan. So that option's also there.
Yeah, you've got it all. Okay, brilliant stuff.
Listen, Greg, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity.
Listen,
we really appreciate the help.
It's like you talk about how quickly you can sell it. There's a bit of restoration in there. There's bargaining there. There's characters in there. There's banter in there. It has all the ingredients. You just need someone to see the potential in it. And I'm not just saying that because I have watched the pilot, and I would watch the show. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, not just because it's a Donegal show, but genuinely I would. And we need to be supporting.
That means a lot to us. Yeah.
Have a lovely day, Paul. Best wishes to everyone. All right, take care.
Thank you very much, Greg.
All right,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Right, you can check out that. We'll link it on our Facebook and our other social media at some point. Okay, that's where we have to leave it. I want to thank Niamh Shields, who departs the show today. It's been lovely working with Niamh, a lovely person, and we will miss her. Although we'll probably paths will cross again into the future. The old reliables, though, will never go on you. We're always going to be here. Caroline Orr, Greg Hughes. Here, 9 till 12 every day. We're back with you tomorrow. Have a lovely one. Stay tuned. John Breslin.